welcome in. We are. Yeah, I mean, we're basically re-recording a video for anyone that was watching earlier. You could hear me. You couldn't hear Dan. Um, we're gonna check it. I think we got everything figured out, but it's unfortunate we had a really good episode going or live stream going, but that's okay. We're gonna kind of like start and do the same thing, but like we're going to talk about different players and whatever, and basically like really quickly sum up what we were talking about. And there was a lot that we hadn't got around to, especially we didn't talk about my portfolio at all. So yeah, a lot to still discuss, Dan. Um, let's recap basically what we had said before. Um, we were going ahead saying McMillan and Cowing and Sermon were like your favorite stashes. Then you got some really deep guys. Then we go on like Puka. You own three Pukas and a fourth one with me. Um,
Yeah.
Basically, Puka go Burr. So not much about that one. But Jaden Daniels is like starting to get to like a rookie, maybe a more risky player in the
hmm
portfolio. Tell us about how you got these Jaden Daniels and why you take them.
Yeah, I didn't expect to have a lot of Jaden Daniels shares, but it just kind of worked out that way. It just kind of made sense for a few of my dynasty teams. So yeah, I just kind of decided to go in on him. So I got the three shares. Definitely feels a bit risky having like that many shares of a rookie quarterback, because it does kind of feel like a crapshoot in terms of like whether a rookie quarterback is going to turn out or not. But I do feel a little better knowing he has like the rushing upside, so that like even if he isn't great in real life, he can still be like a productive fantasy player. So I feel like that gives like a little bit of a safety net. But he's definitely an exciting, fun, exciting player. So definitely happy to have a few shares of him. I also have him stacked with Jahan Dotson on all three of the teams that I have Jaden Daniels. So that's like a fun stack. I definitely love Jahan Dotson, as I know you do as well. So yeah, hopefully that works out. Like if Daniels and Dotson are good for fantasy this year, I'll definitely be a happy dynasty manager.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the getting Dotson in. I mean, that's like kind of like the perfect time to stack him. And we are live. Let's just check the
Hopefully that
video.
works out. Like,
There we go. Okay, the YouTube is working. I just had to make sure
okay,
because my
yeah,
phone
yeah,
wasn't pulling
for
up.
sure.
But yeah, Dotson. You do have three Dotsons as well. So I actually like that because hey, why not just consolidate your bet? We were just talking about how I had I didn't really like Tank last year. There's really nothing that to me was like saying he just wasn't in the range of a guy that I was really targeting. But I still ended up with a Tank because I ended up with two Strouds, and in one of them I just kind of clicked on Tank because I was like, hey, why not just bet on that the Texans rookies, and worked out, got lucky. So um,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, sometimes you get a player because of a stack, and it works out in your favor because maybe you otherwise wouldn't have gotten a share of that like wide receiver, but you wanted the stack. So
yeah,
it kind of helps you diversify a little bit and kind of like get a try to get a share of maybe not necessarily like everyone, but a few additional shares of players.
yeah. So we went to great length before about McConkey. Basically, let's sum it up here. We were talking about McConkey versus the other guys in the tier.
Yeah,
McConkey, what stands out about him, obviously, is his per route stuff,
yeah,
and how we think, comparing him to Garrett Wilson, like people don't realize how fast obviously like we're I think Thomas had a pretty decent 40 time as well, but like Lad ran a
mhm.
4.39, is very comparable in like his physical portfolio to Garrett Wilson. And I actually just saw something where it's like, he can win. The beat writers were like, oh, he can win outside, but they're gonna use him in the slot, which is like honestly, when a guy can like play outside and win outside, but they like, use them a lot of the slot, like that's like fantasy gold. You know, those slot snaps are so useful, especially when you're like the main target of the slot. You see Amon Ra obviously comes to
Yeah,
mind, and just any receiver that can be thrown the slot, like even like Jefferson and Chase, get thrown the slot a lot, and it's just like a way to get them open. They can't really get jammed in the slot, so
right.
um, it's just to open up space. So you
Yeah,
love to
I
hear that
definitely
from
feel
them.
I definitely feel like these days there are a lot of really productive players that produce in fantasy out of the slot, at wide receiver. Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown's like the perfect example. And I mean, you can just really rack up the targets and catches out of the slot, because it's typically going to be like shorter throws, higher percentage throws. And yeah, I definitely think that, Ladd can thrive there, but it's nice uh, that he seemingly can play from like the outside as well. I definitely like a receiver to be versatile. And we were talking about how Ladd can, beat like man coverage with his great route running. He can also find like the soft spots and zone defense. So he definitely seems like a very versatile receiver, and he's fast. He's in a great situation. Justin Herbert, no target competition. Just seems like a guy that should produce early on, and those are the kind of guys I like to target in Dynasty.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, not much competition. Canadian Josh Palmer, love him. I actually have like none of him in Dynasty. I did trade him pretty high in one, and like honestly, I probably lost that trade because I got Traylon Burks back in it at the time, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
I did turn him into Zach Moss somehow.
Oh,
But I
okay.
did put away a starting Zach Wilson, which like he was starting, and I got like Fryermuth. No, it's funny because I
Okay.
just looked up Rasheed Rice. I did somehow turn, just so crazy. You know how I play. Like I'm just like turning guys over and over, and
Yeah.
at some point, and so Rasheed Rice came out of that somehow. But Lad McConkey fits basically what I'm trying to say here into like just an immediate starting role. That's what's so appealing about him. And I mean, there's really no one else to throw to. Quentin Johnston, in my books, is dead pretty well. So I was just looking up to, Rasheed Rice. Obviously I know he operates a slot a lot, but I just want to see how much. 45% of the time, it said. And that's just like something that is awesome is when a guy can like see that maybe like, I don't know, 30+% of the snaps in the slot. Because like they can go outside, they can win outside. But when when you're just you want a guy that can do both. You don't want like a one trick pony. I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
much Amon-Ra lines up outside. I know he's obviously out there like two wide receiver sets, but you can still have a slot in a two wide receiver set. With that being said,
Yeah.
so I don't know, but Amon-Ra obviously can do it all if they ask of it. So
Oh
um,
yeah, for sure.
let's here's a guy we didn't talk about before was Jermaine Burton. He's a guy where like immediately when he got drafted, I was like, "Ooh!" Like I was pretty excited. And then you and I were talking on the live stream. You're like, "Well, I don't know. Is he, the next Cedric Tillman, who I actually really liked last year?" And I dropped all my Cedric Tillmans and just threw him in the pit. Let someone else pick him up. Waste their fab on him. But
Mhm.
we turned around. You got me thinking about it. But I think we both have. I really don't know how much Burton I have, but it seems like I have a lot. That'll be interesting to look at. You have three of them,
Yeah.
and yeah, you have three. And what do we like about Burton? Do you think? Let's say where have you been drafting Burton?
I've been drafting Burton in like the late second and early third round in rookie drafts. Um, and yeah, I mean, when we had that discussion, where we were talking about like, oh, could he kind of be like this year's Cedric Tillman in terms of like a receiver that like went in the third round to like a, NFL team in Ohio and just kind of like does the thing. And yeah. But yeah, honestly, at that time, I mean, that was before even the NFL draft. And I hadn't even watched any tape on Jermaine Burton yet. But once I actually like pulled that up and, checked out like what this guy actually looks like, he really jumped off the screen. He just looks super fast and explosive. And I just got really good vibes watching him. And he just looks like a playmaker. So, yeah, I mean, it really isn't too much more complicated than that. I mean, obviously, he's in a great situation with the Bengals, got Joe Burrow throwing the football. I'm not really worried too much about like the target competition there. I mean, of course, you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins there. But, I mean, there's not too much else beyond that. I mean, they don't have like a prominent established tight end there that like is going to steal targets at least right away. I know you like Eric All, but, we'll see how that works out. I mean, come on, I'm not trying to dismiss
No,
that.
hey, he's free, so that's what I'll say. You know, a guy can't be, can't be a good buy or something. Like a good stat if he's free. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
Eric All's definitely the right price. But my point is like, there's not currently a tight end that like is established there that can like immediately steal targets or anything.
yes,
So I mean, it seems like at worst, Burton should be like the wide receiver three, and T Higgins. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of uncertainty there about like I think he did finally sign his franchise tag,
it was like
so I
yesterday.
think he's all set to like
Yeah,
play for the Bengals this year and be happy or whatever. But you just never know. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he got moved at some point, maybe before like the NFL trade deadline, or maybe this is just like his last year. So yeah, I'm just not too worried about that. I mean, I think Burton can immediately be the Bengals wide receiver three, which I think could be a pretty valuable role. I mean, you think about like what Tyler Boyd was for many years in Cincinnati, good productive receiver. I think Burton is possibly even more talented. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there, both in year one and then even more so after that. Like maybe if T Higgins is somewhere else. So yeah, he's just an exciting player. I mean, there are some like off the field concerns with him, character concerns or whatever. So I mean, I can't really speak to that too much. I don't know too much about all that. So there's some added risk there, but he's definitely a fun upside player to take a swing on. So I'm glad to have a few shares of him.
yeah. I mean, when you see and you hear like he probably would have been first round talent,
Right.
maybe fringe, if he didn't have the on the field,
Yeah.
the funny enough the on the field issues. A report I actually heard was like I forget what I think it was an NFL Insider. He was like he was like I think it was Insider. Between a
Okay.
GM and Insider, he was like shocked that Burton was actually gonna be drafted day two, like
Mhm.
not in a sense of talent, but just like some teams I think just like completely had him off the board.
Right.
Maybe is like what it sounded like. But I mean, almost like similar to Rasheed Rice, who I was just like mentioning, where apparently there was like an incident and like teams just have Rasheed Rice completely off the board. They still drafted him early.
Yeah.
That's kind of like with the Bengals. Like the Bengals went on their way to like draft him early when teams just like didn't have him on his board.
Yeah.
Is basically what I got from that. So I mean, that's like a good sign in my opinion, where it's like, I mean, they just don't really care that they're like,
Yeah.
hey, free third round Burton, hell yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, they took Joe Mixon, and do you remember what
exactly.
round the Bengals drafted Joe Mixon in?
Second round. Yeah,
Second round. That's
it
what I
was a
thought.
Dalvin Cook.
So kind of a similar situation. Obviously, that worked out pretty well for them. So I mean, who knows how Burton will work out, but he's definitely an exciting player. And yeah, I agree with you about like how I think there is a chance that he would have been like a first round guy in the NFL draft if it wasn't for those concerns. Because I think when I wasn't fully aware of that, and like I just like pulled up the tape on Burton, I was kind of shocked to see like how awesome this guy looked
Yeah,
on tape, because like I wasn't expecting that, because he wasn't really talked about as like a top prospect among all these wide receivers in this great wide receiver class. So I was kind of stunned when I watched this guy, like holy cow, like this guy looks really really good. So yeah, I think I definitely agree with you that he's definitely a greater talent than the third round draft capital would suggest.
yeah, I can definitely see him. Again, like if you didn't look into him, like he might have slid under your radar, or if we weren't talking about him or whatever. There's definitely some players like that would have slid under my radar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know 100% if like all our league mates, or whatever, or whoever's league mates, really went out in the look about Burton, because you do get at times where he is kind of getting drafted at 208, 209. And the thing I
Yeah.
love about Burton is you don't need to take him there. I think every time I took him, it was like maybe 3-2, 3-3, 3-4. Because I had a you and I had kind of like a tier there where I didn't really care who I got, maybe a little bit based on roster construction. But as long
Mm-hmm.
as I come out with like one or two of those guys, it'll kind of even out across leagues.
Yeah, and
And
you're talking about like Jalen Wright and Ben Sinnott and then
Sinat,
Jermaine. Like,
yeah,
yeah, they were all kind of in that tier there in like the late second, early third for us.
exactly, yeah. And then right ahead of that, I had Polk,
Yeah.
who again I was just talking about Corum with you, who I only ended up with one, and I wish I got maybe one or two more but it's because I have so much Polk who, I was
Yeah.
taking. So I mean, it makes sense, and
Yeah.
Polk as far as value upside is a much better bet. But
Mhm.
anyways, that's beside the point here. So quickly, Ty Chandler is another guy you're highly invested in. I sold all my Ty Chandlers off. I was telling you. I think I got like 2 seconds, like for two different Chandlers, like one each.
Yeah.
In season last year, and just like packaged them with some trades. I think I had them like 100% drafted. Like I'm 99%, or maybe it was 5 out of 6 or something. But
Yeah.
just being a Vikings fan, I had 100%. Whatever. Jalen Naylor and Ty Chandler rounds 24 and 25. Naylor just can't touch the field. Maybe this is his year. I don't have any Naylor, but
Never know. Yeah.
I know you
Same
liked
here.
him too.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was a Michigan State guy, not a Michigan guy.
Yeah. I try not to hold that against
Yeah.
them, but yeah, I like Naylor, but yeah, I'm not sure if it'll ever happen. But, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, Ty Chandler was like the perfect guy last offseason where he was like a true sleeper. I mean, obviously the guys that were the nerds that were really looking in, as soon as Cook was out, it seemed like it took a while for people to get on Chandler. Like no one was really trading for him. Like I got no offers for him. I know that I would have traded him for like a fourth or anything because like I knew just
Yeah.
I thought Madison was better than he was, but that's like an advantage. Let's just talk about that real quick. How big of an advantage is it to like know, like, can you imagine if you knew all 32 teams like you knew your own like favorite team? Because like for the Vikings,
Oh yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
in all my startups that I had done pre Dalvin Cook, I drafted Madison in every one. I think he's the one that I didn't get him in one, but I got all Ty Chandler in every single one. So like,
Okay.
I mean, I was basically already 100% that like that was like all the things like Cook's out. Cook
Yeah.
was like worth like a late first last year, and before he got cut, right? Like
Right.
that's
Crazy.
literally what you could trade him for, pick him as. I was drafting Madison in like rounds 11 and 12, pre-cut, and then again
Mhm.
Chandler for free. So I mean that gave me a huge edge last year. I know you liked Laporta last year. Did you end up with any Laportas? Like, you kind of lucked into one by orphaning in that league that we met.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I took over the Orphan and Blood, Sweat, and Beers. That's the league that we met in, and yeah, of course, like the first message you ever sent me was trying to get Laporta off me.
Yeah.
So the whole podcast, it all kind of started there. The Dynasty and everything. That was the start of it.
I mean, here's the better part. You then messaged me like, "Hey, I'm a Lions fan." I'm like, "Ah, shoot," and then you're like, "Hey, can I get Puka off you?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I spent all my fab on him, so we were targeting.
It's kind of like it's kind of like the situation with Joshi, who's our league mate that like has like the same tastes and NFL players as we do for fantasy. And yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot of similarities, and so yeah, I think we discovered that pretty quick. That it's like, oh, this guy's dialed in. Like, I'm not a chance I'm gonna get Puka off of him, just like he's not gonna get Laporte off of me. So
yeah, I don't even think we talked for a long time after that. I remember I stole a 26 fourth off you for Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett, who I then later like caught like a few weeks later because I had traded away Sam Howell. So I was like, I don't need Brissett anymore.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I always think that's funny. Like we were trying to steal each other's like best sleeper off each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is. I guess
Hey, we wouldn't be good dynasty managers if we didn't try. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
New guy comes in, you gotta test them.
Yeah, you gotta test them. Unfortunately, you're a Lions fan. So
yeah.
And one thing I'll say quickly about Anais Smith is I was hearing about Kellen Moore offenses is like apparently they like to pepper the slot. So I mean I know Paris Campbell's the guy in the slot right now, but if Smith can get in there and get some snaps of the slot, I think I forget what I was listening to, but like there is real chance for Devontae Smith to operate on the slot a lot. But I don't know, either way, if Anais Smith can just get on the field,
right,
definitely a good deep sleeper. And then real quickly, Bub Means, you and I have been talking. If there's like a true Puka where it's just like this guy's. I know Puka didn't come out of nowhere. Like, we were on to him, and we're both drafting him and whatever, and having some shares of him. But, I mean, there's literally no competition in New Orleans. Like, actually, Dennis Smith has basically been like, A.T. Perry sucks. Like basically is like what he's been
Oh, really?
saying. Yeah, he's just been like, yeah, he needs to get better at everything. Is what he's been
Oh,
saying.
okay.
So like
Wow.
A.T. Perry, none of us really like him.
Yeah.
Let's just write him off. He's not gonna be a starter. I mean,
Yeah.
who else they have? They have Shaheed, the tool, the gadget, Taysom, the gadget, who doesn't even play receiver. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows what that guy plays. It's Chris Olave. So there's a lot of room for Bub Means to just like carve a rollout. And I mean, we're talking dynasty. Um, anything is good. So if he can get on the field and just like demand some targets, say, just
Yeah.
get
I
him
mean,
for free.
yeah. I mean, the opportunity is definitely there. And if you watch his tape, he just looks like a NFL receiver. He's got the
Yep.
size, he's got the speed. He just looks like someone that should be like playing in the NFL on Sundays. So, um, yeah, and I think he wasn't like fully utilized at Pittsburgh. I think kind of like how I say about Lad McConkey that how Lad will be a better NFL wide receiver than he was in college. I could see the same being true of Bub Means. I just think he'll have more opportunity in the NFL to show what he can really do. Hopefully, better quarterback play. Although I know New Orleans isn't the greatest spot for that. But just to be in an NFL team and just like not be stuck in some like college program where like they barely throw the ball or just have like someone throwing you the football that's going to be like selling insurance like after
Yeah,
they
exactly.
you know
He's definitely like he was definitely not put in a spot to succeed. He basically just looks really good. He's literally free. I mean, maybe he's actually probably rostered in a lot of you guys' leagues that are watching, especially if you play with us. I mean, we probably
right
above you
scoop them up
one.
everywhere.
I don't know. Maybe I gotta check because like I'm sure I have, but I highly doubt he's available in any of my leagues. But again, if you're not playing with us or
Yeah,
like maybe like a sharp league,
right.
he might be available or like more shallow benches.
Oh yeah, for
He's
sure. I mean, he's only like rostered in like 34% of sleeper leagues, so he's definitely out there on the majority of waiver wires and dynasty leagues. So definitely a good player to grab, and just see if you get lucky there.
yeah, exactly. Before we okay, let's real briefly. We're big on Joe Flacco. We'll have to compare your Flacco shares to me. Um,
Yeah,
it just we got like the galaxy brain. I, sometimes it's like good to just like take a step back, think about a scenario that could unfold that you could never really predict, and we're like, I think we were mentioning we don't even have any AD Mitchell anymore. I mean, I traded him away and I, kind of re-rolled him and got a Deontay Foreman and stuff. But like, whatever. I mean, I have a lot of Pittman, so I'm trying to get a lot of Joe Flacco, especially anywhere I have Pittman.
Mhm.
And, who knows? Maybe it's week 14, 15, and AR goes down. Maybe I don't own AR, and I get to throw Joe Flacco in, stack him with Pittman or Jelani Woods, and watch him catch fire. So that's a
Right. I
fun,
mean,
like, little stash for us.
oh yeah. I mean, Flacco did it last year. He was a literal league winner, and so yeah, why can't he do it again? I feel like it's a good situation on the Colts. He's got some good weapons around him. I think their offensive line is still pretty good.
It's
And
been like I don't know. It was like It was really good. Then it was like terrible. Then it's like all
yeah,
right. So who knows? I don't
yeah,
even know.
but yeah,
It's
it's
all over
not
the
the
place.
worst. And the fact that the starting quarterback there is Anthony Richardson, who we certainly haven't seen get through a full season yet or anything close to it. So I mean, yeah, the jury's out about whether like Richardson is going to turn out to be some injury prone guy or whether like the first year was just a bit of a fluke and he was a bit unlucky. But yeah, I mean, if there's even a chance that Anthony Richardson is kind of injury prone, I mean, he's a mobile quarterback. I mean, I don't know how you feel about like the theory that mobile quarterbacks are more prone to injury. I think there are some people that would disagree with that, and it is just sort of kind of like a simple argument to make that, I guess. So I don't know how true that is or not.
Yeah, technically, like if they're like AR was in his first couple games, you can take a lot of hits, but like Lamar Jackson, for example, is like the master of like evading hits, and like his injuries have not been because really he's mobile. It's actually been like stuff
Yeah.
in the pocket, and then you see
Okay.
guys like
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, Herbert, and stuff. So yeah, I'd argue Anthony Richardson put himself in harm's way, but you know he was a rookie, and I mean I'm all in an AR, which kind of means like it's good to be all in and Flacco as well because like hey he's free and like across leads I can hedge if if I get screwed over on AR and I don't have him handcuffed, which I do in the only league I actually have him unfortunately. I have a Flacco in there to replace him, and I have some other Flaccos across other leagues. So
Yeah, and Flacco's just so cheap. I mean,
yeah,
you can get a late pick or fab or
waiver
like whatever.
wire sometimes, which I wish he went there more, but I know you picked him up one time. So, you know, if Flacco's on your waiver wire, basically just like he's a must add. Like he should.
Yeah, just super high upside. It just takes one injury ahead of him, and yeah. So we'll see about Anthony Richardson in terms of like how prone to injury he is moving forward. But if there's even a chance that he's more likely to like not protect himself or whatever when he's running, then Flacco's a guy you're going to want to have.
Yeah, and then real quick, I guess we can point out like Jelani Woods if like Flacco goes in there. I'm not gonna say he's Joku, but like, I mean, he's an athletic tight end, and like maybe he gets like a big spike if he's really like truly breaking out or something.
Oh yeah, he showed a few flashes of rookie, and he's like a monster. I mean, isn't he like 6'7", and he's fast, so he's definitely like a high upside guy that's fun to take a shot on.
I got him on the. I think you got him on the waiver wire too in a tight end premium league. We both got him in a league on the waiver wire, and it's just like, hey. Especially if Flacco goes in, not that like he can't be good with AR, but when if it's extra passing volume.
I mean, and look at how David Njoku took off last season once Flacco went in there. So I mean, I don't know if Flacco has a propensity to throw to the tight end more than the average quarterback. I'd have to kind of think back on that. But yeah, I would definitely like. I mean, I like Woods upside regardless, but yeah, certainly no less if Flacco has to come in there.
Yeah. So, and then just real quick, Greg Dortch, you'll probably see a few of him in my profile. I mean, he's like free, and you might as well just hold on to him. I don't think he really needs an injury to like produce because he's projected to be the slot guy. I guess the only concern is like how much like they draft that Tip Ryman guy to block and stuff. Like how much like 11 personnel are they gonna run? I mean, I don't know. So that's kind of just we'll see when that
right, yeah, for sure.
But if he's out there, he's been awesome, basically.
Oh yeah, he just always seems to produce when he gets the playing time. So maybe he's like finally has like earned that at this point, that he's proven himself enough to just like go into a season as the starter finally. This would be like the first time that's ever happened. Yeah. And also I saw like a report recently that like Kyler Murray was really talking up Greg Dortch. So that was nice to see as well.
Okay, so I got a question for you because like we're switching on mine. When I scroll to your top, like does like how does this look to you like when you just look at it? Is like does this really get like your blood pumping? Like are you like I'm loving these names? Like
okay, yeah, let me look at that.
Because when I go to my page, I'm like, oh my god, like woo! I'm like I'm loving these names. It gets me going with the names I've been seeing on my page. Like I don't know. So like this basically describes me here. Like I mean, there's really not. I mean, I guess like the Ali's and stuff. It's like, okay, I just got them on the waiver wire,
Yeah.
But like all these guys. I mean, again, Jefferson's like Jefferson.
Yeah, 4 shares. That looks pretty nice.
I thought I had like 6 Hertzes. Apparently, I only have 4. So I mean, that actually kind of surprised me. I got them all this offseason. I guess that makes sense because I did like 4 startups. So I mean, hey, there you go. I didn't realize that. Or I don't know. Did I do? Yeah, I guess I took over an Orphan and stuff. So, anyways, I don't have him in that league. James Conner. Maybe I gotta look at selling James Conner. I'm be honest.
Yeah, 7 shares. That's a lot. So 7 out of. So you're in what 12 dynasty leagues?
Yeah. 12. Yeah, I have 12. It says 13, but that one of those is just like a redraft.
Yeah, and we should have said earlier when we were looking at my portfolio of most owned players that I am in 7 dynasty leagues.
It was showing for 6 though.
Yeah, it was only showing out of 6 though because you and I are in a league that we co-manage.
Yeah. And
it's giving like you credit for that because like you were like the original manager, and it's not giving me credit for it. So
exactly.
So the stats you saw for mine earlier was essentially for 6 of my dynasty leagues, and then there was just one other that it left out.
So I'll quickly start like running through here. Jacob Cowling, I have 6 of them. I didn't realize I had 6. I mean, I know you like to
Yeah.
see that.
Oh my God. I
He's
mean,
been
that's
free.
amazing.
I could have actually got him like maybe like one or two more. I just like
Mhm.
wasn't aggressive and fab enough for a lot of reasons because like there was other players that maybe I wanted, and
Yeah.
also like those were maybe like rosters where it's like, hey, maybe I want to like keep fab for whatever reason it is, and I
Yeah.
don't want to go like drop 30 on him.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, six is enough. I mean, if he ever get like hands, hope we're gonna fire Connor Miller. Yeah, we were talking about Connor Miller before when the audio had cut out. Basically, I just see him as a really talented back. Um, hopefully there's a lot of opportunity for him to increase his workload, and I just think he's awesome. And I just see him as the discount like Trey Benson. I now own zero Benson because we just traded him in like a no-brain deal for Trey McBride.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
we have seven Connors, so I mean, luckily I own Connor in like all leagues like where I'm just like competing, and he's not really like an important piece. He's just whatever like an RB. He's just like in a cluster of like backs.
Yeah.
But he's just been a league winner for 3 years. I should probably look at selling him in a league, and I know you and I own him. We're probably gonna dump him off
Mhm.
in a certain scenario
Yeah.
for the right
Most
price.
likely.
So I'll
Yeah.
have
Because I
to.
mean, if you're, yeah, for any teams out there that are rebuilding, I mean, obviously, like, you don't want to be like holding Connor. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's in the league that we're co-managing, I mean, there's still a scenario where we could end up contending. So,
Yeah. Again, we're not like
not like,
we're not like rebuilding. We're just like extremely flexible. Like we have,
yeah,
I think
exactly.
we're like killing it as far as like assets and like value goes.
Yeah, value.
It's just like we have a lot of it tied up into youth and picks, and I mean we
Yeah.
still have some studs like Brees Hall and Hurts and stuff to, but
Yeah.
we got to get creative, and who knows where that takes us. We'll have to see,
Yeah.
but probably Connor will probably be a sell at some point, especially early in the season.
But
People
yeah,
think
but I mean,
Benson is gonna go in there and like light the world on fire. It seems. I'm not convinced that it'll be like that. It'll be probably like more like Kamara and Condre. I mean,
yeah. I mean, Connor's definitely a guy that you want to have some shares of. I mean, he just seems to be such a good value right now with how cheap he is.
yeah,
And I mean, I think he can give you like similar production this year as like, the Saquon Barkleys and Joe Mixons of the world that are a lot more, substantially more expensive. So yeah, he's just like a cheap guy to like get good running back production from.
yeah. I should mention that the reason I have so much James Conner is because like I was constantly drafting him like the 13th round of all my
Right.
startups. And again,
Yep.
it's just because like I'm not drafting Joe Mixon's in like the 9th or sometimes
Yeah.
the 8th. I mean, just give me James Conner like
Yeah.
5 rounds later. Again, just insert running back's name and then James Conner, same production for like much
Yeah.
less. So
Pretty much.
I
Yeah.
mean that's the philosophy. All these Chubas again. I mean I was kind of getting them last season, maybe a couple in startups this offseason before Brooks came in. Which
Yeah.
is unfortunate, but I mean there's still a world where like it ends up somehow being Chuba's.
Oh, yeah.
A starter.
Yeah, I mean, if like, especially like early in the season, or if Brooks suffers another injury. So yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
definitely not a bad upside handcuff to have.
Yeah, I'm big on Pittman as far as just like this dude runs the team. He owns that target share. Hopefully we can see like a bigger ceiling out of him. I guess that would probably be the only concern is like he's never really dropping like 35 points in a week, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
He is high investment, but and you and I were talking about like consistency doesn't matter like that much. But
Yeah.
I mean, if he's dropping like 20 points like 2 out of 3 weeks, which he seems to like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he's not doing that, but he like before his injury where he just got absolutely popped in that Steelers game. I mean, he was killing it. You definitely want him on your team. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, I didn't own any Pittman last year, but my perception is that he was kind of like maybe almost like annoyingly consistent last year, where he wasn't giving you a ton of spike weeks, but just kind of like solid production, like week in and week out. So yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world to have like a guy like that. He's not going to like win you the week, but he's like, you're not going to lose because of it. I guess as long as you have like other guys in your on your roster or in your starting lineup that can offer you that spike week potential, then yeah, I mean, you're fine like having a guy like Pittman. Yeah, just a solid receiver that should produce more often than not. And yeah, hopefully, who knows? Maybe he unlocks a little bit of a higher ceiling with Anthony Richardson in there. So yeah, it remains to be seen.
I'm gonna look it up real quick because I pushed back just on like I mean I know we were talking about Chris Olave being like doing really nothing for your fantasy team, for
Mhm.
whatever reasons, but I mean Pittman like was definitely useful to like your fantasy team. I think more in like a best ball perspective, like if you're playing like an
Okay.
underdog or something, like he just wasn't really pushing you over the edge, but I mean he was
Mhm.
definitely dipping in 20 points like a lot of times or whatever. Like I'm just looking right now.
Yeah.
Basically, like for him to at least hit 19 points, he did, whatever, 1, 2, I mean, as many times as Calvin really did it, but like a lot more
Okay.
consistently. And hey, so I don't know. That's all I gotta say. Is just
And that sounds more like
anytime.
a Calvin Ridley argument than a Michael Pittman
I
one.
maybe I gotta try to like find a better way to throw Calvin Ridley in the dirt, but
My
I mean,
God.
maybe you got a point there.
Yeah. There you
So
go.
anyways, I don't know. I just like it's more of like the volume's gonna be there for Pittman.
Yeah.
The whole RPO stuff, and it's just like just give me Michael Pittman. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you thinking then that the Colts are more of a passing team than most people expect?
it's just more of like basically the data suggests RPOs just completely funneled to the wide receiver one because there is no read. It's just to Pittman or else
Okay.
they run the ball. And
Yeah.
so I mean that's like the argument for Terry McLaurin this year,
Mhm.
with like Jaden Daniels coming in, is
Okay.
like basically any wide receiver one, even if it's like a low passing volume or like a rookie quarterback, it just doesn't really matter because with this new data of like the RPOs are pretty new.
Mhm.
Everything suggests like screw everything about rookie quarterbacks, whatever. Just like the wide receiver one, we'll see the volume. Regardless of like how valuable the RPO targets are, like he's gonna be like seeing increased volume, and you saw that with Pittman. Like he was getting double digit targets every single week with Richardson, and I mean I think they lowered a little bit with on average with
Hardman Minshew.
with Gardner Minshew. I mean it's gonna happen because he was just getting so many damn targets with
Mhm.
AR. So
Okay.
and hopefully they're more valuable now that he's not a rookie. But
Yeah.
Jalen Polk, I only have like 4 of them. It felt like I had like 8 of them, but
Right.
I mean, I realistically I knew it was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So that's like 33%. But Polk, I just basically anytime I've had him, I'm just sitting on that draft. Like I've like intentionally like moved back. I know I did in
Yeah.
the league with you, where I just like picked up Curtis Samuel instead of draft like on top instead of drafting Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah.
My argument for Polk is, I mean, he's going so low, not because of his draft capital, but or like really because of his profile. It is a little bit of shock that he went as high as he did, but when you actually like looked around, like people were actually mocking him and expecting him to go like in the late first in for some people. So I don't
Oh,
think it
really?
is that. Yeah, I don't think it is that big of a shock. I just think the general narrative was like, oh, he'll go like late second or third or something. But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe the opinions were kind of all over the place with Polk. Maybe it's just
yeah,
more of like a bit polarizing because, I mean, of course, there's the fact that like, I mean, he was basically a lot of times like the third receiver at the University of Washington, right? And then I think it was like a injury. I can't remember whether it was to like a Dunze or
like
McMillan,
McMillan,
but
I
that
think.
kind of like gave him more of an opportunity to show what he was capable of. Um, and so, I mean, obviously they had three really good
Yeah,
receivers there. So
yeah. I mean,
maybe blame him too much for kind of getting lost in the shuffle a little at times. But
yeah. I mean, and he got drafted significantly. I mean, significantly higher than McMillan, which I guess is a good thing, right? I mean, McMillan had a pretty good profile. He's really productive. Um,
yeah,
and just like when a guy gets drafted that high and was like playing with that many NFL talents, of course he had Penix like being like the best passing offense in college last year. It is one thing, but I mean, yeah, you're just playing alongside like Odunze and stuff. So I don't know. It's definitely good to see him get drafted, not like the third one in that class, higher than
yeah,
McMillan. I don't know. It just tells me I get good vibes behind Polk. He can separate. He can help move all around, and he's like a really good contested catch player. And it's just
yeah,
like there's no one there. There's just no one in New England. I mean, there's Demario
Yeah.
Douglas, my boy KJ Osborne, also my boy Kendrick Bourne, who is on this
Right.
list
Yeah.
somewhere.
We got
Can't skip over
several
him.
boys there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just like so many. Hey, I mean, look at this. I got Kendrick Bourne, and I got it's a bunch of Polks. Someone is gonna like beat their ADP theoretically.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't, like, who really cares? It's not like I'm paying it's not like I'm paying a top even 20 pick for Polk and rookie picks. So
Yeah.
I just think
But-
it's a great investment as far as like how cheap you can get like a really good profile.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cheap way of getting what very easily could be like the number one receiver on an NFL team. So it seems like a good opportunity there. And although typically, like, you don't like seeing receivers go to the Patriots, it is kind of a new regime there. And they draft Drake May.
That's all baked in though, right? Like that's all baked into the price.
Yeah,
which is
that's why you're getting them so cheap. So,
exactly.
so yeah, if you just kind of fade that narrative and be open to the fact that it could be a better landing spot than a lot of people are giving it credit for, then that's why this could be a really great value.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, when you're seeing, it plays into people's minds of like New England receiver. So I mean, they get a new quarterback, new regime, everything. I just don't really care. Just give me Polk, baby. Ray Davis is a guy. I mean, pre-draft he was definitely like a name that was floating around as like could be a sneaky, highly drafted guy. Definitely gets a good landing spot. You and I are not too hot and cook, at least for Dynasty.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just like see a world where like Ray Davis is out there like 50% of snaps and just like from day
right.
Just bullying Dalvin Cook or James Cook, and just like everyone's like, oh man, like I should have been drafting Ray Davis like 401. Like what was I doing? I mean, I think I got like 402 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can't exactly like put a percentage on it about like how likely that outcome is. And even if it does happen, like, it might not be like week one, you know what I mean? Like it might take a few weeks, it might take half the season, like who knows? But Ray Davis just seems like a good running back. I liked what I saw on tape with him. He just seems like a good all around back that can do a lot of different things. And I mean, what a great situation to go to. I mean, I know Buffalo, the offense is going to look a little different without like Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. So they're kind of like, rebuilding and kind of like starting over a little bit. But one thing they definitely want to do is like run the football. I mean, that's what they did under their current offensive coordinator, when he took over, when he took over, during last season. And that's part of the reason why James Cook was pretty great down the stretch. So I definitely think they're going to be running the football a lot. And I mean, there aren't too many backfields where you have like a workhorse. So I don't really expect James Cook to, be the exception to the rule. I think Ray Davis like fits what they want to do perfectly. He's a running back with a little bit of bulk and power. But still is pretty like slippery and can move around well.
He gets the rock too. I mean, I know it's like Allen and everything, but I
could definitely see a scenario where it is kind of like a split backfield, and it's like, man, like, you could have gotten like half of the Bills, running back committee at a much cheaper price by just taking Ray Davis in the third rather than spending like a late first or early second on a James Cook.
Exactly. I know that like, James, I don't know. This is just like how I play Dynasty, man. I think it's like it plays in how you like play Dynasty, and it's not like let's just fade every running back. I mean, I'm willing to invest. I mean, you see, I have 3 Breece Halls, but like, I'm willing to invest in the league elite talent. But I know Ray Davis is old, so like technically his value ceiling is capped. But like we're talking about a guy that we're drafting late third, early fourth in some scenarios. Like all he needs to do is just produce anything, and he increases. And I mean, what a cheap bet for getting 50, trying to get 50% of this Buffalo. And I mean, like Cook's going into his third year. He's also like a pretty fragile back who's been healthy, but I don't know. I mean, when you see like a back of that size, I don't want to assume it like, oh, he's due for injury, but like, I don't know. You see it all the time, right? These backs, they get bruised up, and what if Ray Davis just then is the guy? Like, there's just like Ty Johnson behind him, right? I don't know. It just seems like an awesome handcuff. So
for sure. I mean, if there was a Cook injury, like, Ray Davis could go in there and he could be getting like 60, 70% of the carries, something like that. He could be kind of like something close to a workhorse because, like, yeah, I mean, how many touches do you really want to give to like Ty Johnson or whoever else there? I guess they did like sign Frank Gore Jr. as undrafted free agent, so and maybe he's a sleeper for some people, but I mean, they took Ray Davis and what was it? They get round 4, I want to say.
Yeah, round 4.
So decent, these days that's decent draft capital for a running back. And yeah, it's a great situation to go to. There's nice upside if there's a Cook injury. And yeah, I just don't feel like James Cook is the kind of guy that they like want to be a workhorse. I mean, I feel like they had to use James Cook last year because there just really wasn't much else. Like, it was like Latavius Murray on his last legs and like Ty Johnson. So
yeah.
And also maybe Ray Davis can like, I know people want to say this kind of thing like every year and it never happens, but like, can Ray Davis get like a few goal line carries, that like Josh Allen would normally get? At some point, do they try to like ease that, goal line load off of Josh Allen? So, I mean, you can't necessarily expect that, but it's at least in the range of outcomes.
Yeah. And then I'll highlight quickly Cooks. Like, I don't think you really care about Cooks. I know Andrew does. Basically, the whole Cooks thing is like, yeah, this guy has a history of being useful in fantasy. I know he wasn't like amazing last year, but he kind of got hot with touchdowns. I mean, really, the argument is he's literally free. Like, you can get him in like the 17th round of all these startups, which I've been getting him in. Or just as like a throw-in. And I mean, there's no one else to pass to. They're like one of the projected highest volume of passing. They have no one to hand the ball off to. So it's basically just like, who else to go throw to? I mean, I'm never relying on him to actually like sit in my lineup. He's just kind of like the perfect guy where you're like, oh shoot, everyone's on bye week. Who am I gonna throw in? Oh, Brandon Cooks plays like, I don't know, what do they play? Like he plays the Commanders this week. Like hell yeah, like let me just throw him in there, and he's gonna drop 2 touchdowns on Thanksgiving again. So I don't know. Yeah, just a free guy I like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question with a guy like that is like, I mean, you answered it, but like it's like, you have to make sure you're asking yourself, like, why am I rostering this guy? And you want to make sure that you have a good answer to that question. Because if he's a guy that's just, like, always going to sit on your bench and you never know which week to start him, then there's, like, really no reason to roster him. Now, if you need him for, like, the bye weeks or for possible injuries, then, yeah, I mean, I guess, someone like that could make sense. But it's still good to, like, ask yourself, like, is this guy worth the roster spot? Or, like, what else could I do with this roster spot? Would I be better off going to the waiver wire? Well, I mean, I'm not saying cut Brandon Cooks. I mean, if you want to get rid of him, at least try to get like a, 3rd or 4th or something for him, or, trade him for a, player that you like better or whatever. But if you're able to like trade him away and then like pick up someone off the waiver wire to kind of take his place, would you be better like, getting a 3rd for Brandon Cooks and then like picking up one of these like rookie sleepers that we like, that would be on the waiver, like, like a Bub Means or something like that. Now Brandon Cooks will probably outproduce Bub Means this year in all likelihood, but are you better off just taking that shot? Do you have other guys on your bench that could fill in during bye weeks that you don't really need to roster Brandon Cooks? So good things to ask yourself, but yeah, I could definitely see how he makes sense on certain rosters. And certainly if it's like a league that's like start 11, start 12, that would make more sense. Certainly in best ball leagues, Brandon Cooks makes more sense.
I own him in 2 start 11s actually. Is like where
okay, exactly. So
start 11, and I have
so it's probably not an accident that you own him in 2 leagues like that.
I actually own him in my other best ball league too, and then the final one is like Grease Bowl, or like I do own him in like the right leagues where it's like
exactly.
They're all start 11, start 12 best ball actually. And I have CeeDee Lamb in that one as well. So it's
but like a good little exactly. So there you go. I mean, you roster them in the right leagues, so it's not a coincidence that those are the leagues that you tend to roster them in. But yeah, if like you're in like a start 9 and it's a lineup league, like there's not a lot of reason. And certainly if you're rebuilding, like of course get rid of them. But even if you're a contender, like make sure that like he makes sense for that league. You're not just wasting a roster spot.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point though. Yeah, because I mean we're always talking like start 10, start 11, whatever. But like some people are watching might be in a start 8, like. Start it.
Yeah. I mean, they're out there. I mean, we kind of forget because we don't play in leagues like that, but they do exist.
Yeah, Cooks just doesn't matter in that. But anytime you're like start 10 or higher, especially start 11.
Yeah.
I mean, he is that at that point a guy that probably is going to see your lineup at some point. And again, can you sell him for anything? No. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah, he's hard to sell. I mean, obviously, I said like see if you can get a 3rd or a 4th, but like that's probably not even going to be easy. I mean, like probably your best bet is to like trade him for like a player that other people don't like, but you're higher on. Like, could you trade him for like Wandale Robinson? Like that would be like, that would probably be a deal that you could maybe pull off if like the Wandale owner is a contender and just kind of thinks he's a roster
maybe
clogger.
Like Dak or something, like maybe
Yeah,
like,
and okay, I'll take the stack, and Brandon Cook's like a bye week guy I could throw in there. Okay, yeah, I'll get rid of Wandale to get that. So that's probably an easier way to trade Cooks. But yeah, I mean, there aren't going to be a ton of people dying to give you even a late pick for him.
Yeah, my favorite of getting a guy like this though is just like a startup where it's like, okay, am I gonna draft a backup quarterback or am I gonna draft Brandon Cooks? Like I don't know, I'm just like gonna draft Brandon Cooks. Here's another backup quarterback though that I have been drafting. I don't know. I think you might own at least like one Drew Lock. We have him in a shared league.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know. To me, he's free. I don't know if you've been hearing about this, but Daniel Jones has an injury, like a really large Russell Wilson type injury guarantee in his contract. So basically, if they're just like out of playoff contention, which is pretty likely, and they just don't like what they've gotten out of Daniel Jones, which again I think is very likely.
Yeah,
he's probably just going to be set like Russell Wilson was, because they don't want to pay him this injury guarantee, and Drew Lock will like probably more than likely be playing games. I mean, it's not for certain, but I
think the probability is pretty high that Drew Lock is going to start some number of games this year.
Say it's like 100% he's going to start like at least one game.
No.
Like
not 100, but
like guaranteed almost. But I mean,
it feels pretty.
Like even if
it feels pretty high. I mean, if there was an over/under bet of like over or under half a game, that Drew Lock starts in 24, I mean, you would smash the over on that.
Yeah, I don't think they would give you like 50% on that myself. Like, I don't think just because that injury guarantee like will play a huge part. And I mean, also like I don't know, why not just why not roll Drew Lock out there and try to get something going with like Malik Neighbors when the Giants are like I don't know whatever. I mean, they're in a tough division. It's like they're like 2-7. Like I don't know. Why not just change it up? And they can.
Well, I know we talked about before. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones doesn't seem to be the answer there, and so yeah, I mean, it would seem natural that like if the season isn't going well, like hey, let's see what we have in Drew Lock. And while Drew Lock may just seem like some journeyman bust at this point, like who knows? Like could he be the next Geno Smith? And kind of funny that he came from Seattle and he was competing with Geno and kind of came out of nowhere and took the job there. But like, could Drew Lock now do that to Daniel Jones?
Yeah.
I think there is some chance of that. And I mean, Lock played pretty decent when he filled in last year, so he's kind of a sneaky guy. He's a guy I like to have.
Yeah, exactly. And then another guy we could show is Mason Rudolph. I got a couple of him. Which again, same kind of thing. I mean, it's a little less likely over like Lock because I mean Lock's a little bit better of a situation. But here's some names here. Again, like we're getting this people I own 3 of. I just I'm seeing a lot of names I like here. I did sell a Lad McConkey off. I did have 4 of him. I sold him off with a Herbert stack actually. Which you don't
that's right, yeah.
But
and you got Purdy and Ayuk in a second.
Yeah, I got Purdy, Ayuk in a second, which again maybe in its own might not sound like an amazing, but like when you after making that deal combined with this like other like crazy blockbuster deal where I sent off Stroud, Tank, and K9, I mean my overall return like I didn't lose any. I mean projected points. I don't really care about the sleeper stuff, but like my team's just as productive, and I gained like an extra first and a second. And I mean, just like kind of reloaded. Just again, I still have a really extremely young team. I think like Malik Neighbors is like my wide receiver 5 going into the season.
Okay, you're just bragging at this point.
It's an awesome team. Maybe I'll have to like pull up a sleeper. No,
my god, it is a sack team. Yeah, for sure.
So it's just like okay, now I have like 2 firsts and 2 seconds to work with. Like hell yeah, and I got like a bunch of stuff on my bench. So, anyways, I don't know. I was a big fan of that move, but Puka's. Just traded for Garrett Wilson, sent off, I guess I can mention that, sent off Tyreek Hill on my best roster, which, again, like, I'm a competitor, so it sounds, like, questionable, but, I mean, I already am invested in CMC, Breece Hall, Jefferson, Chase, like, the whole, like, package there, so I'm like, what is, like, Tyreek's just gonna, he will help me, I don't know, I'm just not convinced that I should just let him burn in my roster. And if I can get it, I wasn't going to force him off my roster because, like, obviously I could sell him in season. But or whatever, just like try to win a championship with him. But like, I didn't really like Keon Coleman. I got really lucky on him basically. Got a good price. So
Yeah.
why not just like turn him into Garrett Wilson, who could be near as productive. We certainly have not seen anywhere near the best from Garrett Wilson. Just
Yeah.
gotta pray that Rodgers is healthy.
Oh, for sure. I like that move. Like instead of like Tyreek's value just like going down to 0 in a year or 2 years or whenever he retires.
I don't think it will.
I like that move to move off and kind of reset the age of the receiver and reset the value.
I don't think he will go to 0, but the issue is like, okay, I mean, I already own CMC. I already own like so many true stud players, and like Garrett Wilson still is that.
Yeah.
I just can't justify, like, I don't. If I'm gonna win the championship, I don't think it's gonna be just because of Tyreek Hill. Like, I think Garrett Wilson can still like fill the void, and I just don't want to be left holding the bag. So I don't know. Yeah, and then Kyron, we were discussing. Maybe we'll discuss that at a different time, but like, probably could be a buy right now based off
how low everyone is.
Yeah, especially if you can just like avoid sending a 1, which obviously you
can exactly. Yeah, don't send a first for Kyron, but if you can like get creative and send like maybe throw something in.
Like maybe you have like a Keon Coleman or something and you just like find the right owner and you just like, I'm not saying 1 for 1, but like you could just twist some assets in there and just like have Keon Coleman as like the big thing. I don't know.
I mean, could you like give Keon Coleman and then maybe like swap like a second and a third kind of thing, something like that? Or actually, maybe
I don't think we do less.
That's what I mean. Like maybe like I'm trying to think of some kind of like pick swap that would make sense. Yeah, I mean, could you just like do Keon Coleman in a third, or like maybe even you get a third, but you get a fourth back or something. Because I kind of like that, like when you like don't actually like lose a draft pick, but you just do like a pick swap. So if you can like incorporate something like that in there,
get Jacob Cowing back.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about that I guess another time. But again, I've been just like getting Mark Andrews. He's so cheap, and actually that's like a big best ball. A lot of the guys that I like listening to are just like. It's just like Mark Andrews or nothing, basically, for them as well, which I'm glad to see that they're kind of on the same page as I've been. I don't think I had any Mark Andrews before this offseason.
Okay.
Still have 3 Hawkinsons, which kind of surprises me because I sold a few pre-injury. I think. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, again, we already went over these guys. I'm shocked I only have 3 Mosses. We did sell them in the league. I swore I had like 9 Zach Mosses.
Right.
Probably a good thing I only have 3 of them. I mean, I definitely like him going in the season. But I got him on the right rosters, I think. So, again, here's like the money zone. Burton. I'm so glad I perfectly evened it out. 3-3-3.
Okay, yeah, 3 shares of Burton, Sanat, and Wright. Yeah.
I never really like paid attention to this, but the way that it went, I just kind of like let them fall to me at the cheapest price in each league. I didn't really go my way to. I think we did go out of our way to get Wright in our one league, shared league.
Yeah.
And then Sanat kind of fell and we jumped up, but Ford, been going after him hard. Estime, really cheap guy. Like Wandell, again, really cheap for. I mean, just like I think it's like kind of just a bet on talent. And kind of outproducing. Any other things that step out here? I guess I'd say Sam Darnold. I'm glad I have 3 of him.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that like there's a pretty decent chance that if the Vikings make the playoffs, I don't think you'll see any JJ McCarthy. I mean, I would because Sam Darnold's like 90. I don't know. To me, it's like 90%. He's just gonna start the season, right?
Okay.
From everything I'm hearing, and I'm not gonna say I know more than people that don't follow the Vikings, but everything is pointing to Sam Darnold's the starter.
Okay.
I know everyone hates Sam Darnold, but he's literally never played with a capable offensive group around him, as well as like Kevin O'Connell is just like a genius offensive mastermind. I mean, he had Nick Mullins throwing for like 400 yards in like 2 of his 3 games. So
yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe not the Lions don't have the best like secondary, and like it happened both I think against the Lions, but
Okay. Yeah. So
You know,
take that with a grain of salt. You know
I
that
don't care. I don't care.
that barely
He
even
threw for
counts.
400
Right?
yards, man. Darnold could throw for 500. So,
No,
no,
good throw against the Lions,
I'm
right?
not saying Darnold's gonna even be throwing for 300, but I could totally see like 250 and like 2 touchdowns just to be this like, just do what he's asked, and then like
Yeah.
people are like, whoa, wait, like the Vikings, like they're good. Like they've also the issue's never been offense; it's been defense, and they've completely like revamped their defense. Um, you know, one of the ad I think you mentioned was like Blake Cashman, which I just don't think like any. You know, I think the real ball knowers will be like, excited about
Yeah.
Blake
Yeah.
Cashman. I don't think like any fantasy guy that's like not a Texans or like Vikings or maybe like Jets because he used to be on the Jets like way back. There's like a really like
Yeah.
big pull as like a special teams linebacker. Um, the real ball knowers will be a little excited about that one.
Yeah, I just
And
know him because of my IDP league. So
there you go.
yeah, but pretty good in that.
So yeah, I think the Vikings again. I'm biased because I'm a fan, but I mean, they might just come last or like whatever. But I do think they have a chance to. I'm pulling like the head cheer where I'm like, you know, they might come last. They won the division. I don't think they'll win the division. I think they truly have a chance to sneak in. I think at worst they're like 7-10, and
Mhm.
they have upside of being again like maybe like 10-7. So I bet my money that they're in that range. They're not gonna be
And that
like
could
4-13 like people think.
Yeah, and that could be relevant because like their record could definitely impact whether Sam Darnold continues to start or
Exactly.
whether he gets yanked and they put in JJ McCarthy. So
Yeah.
I think that's the big question is like, let's say you're right and Sam Darnold is basically the named like the QB1 for the season. Like how long of a leash do you think he has? You know what I mean? Because like if he plays like Sam Darnold, like he's probably not going to be out there for too long, and then be like, okay, put in JJ McCarthy. Let's see what we have in the young guy that we spent this high pick on. So how long do you think that leash would be with
If he
Darnold?
plays like the real Sam or whatever, like the Sam Darnold we've seen, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously that's gonna be like probably a really short leash. Is in fact that like okay, we've seen like 4 games that we're 0-4, get him out of here. But like
yeah,
if if he's like somewhat like just decent, I mean they're gonna be winning games like truly. And I mean, if that's the case, if they're winning games, I don't like they're not just gonna pull him when he's winning games, right? Like the
yeah,
Vikings are not just they are doing a rebuilding in the sense of just like okay we are turning this roster over. They're basically the opposite of the Saints, which like let's go off topic for a second. What the hell are the Saints doing? The Saints are just like dude like we got one more year in us like let's bring the whole crib back. You know like who are
yeah,
these guys even signing? You know I don't even know and you know
yeah,
they're just like ruining the roster and just they're just like they refuse to rebuild. The Vikings have done it like already in such a smart way where they're like already progressing up, but there was like really no downside. I mean, they lost Cousins and Jefferson was hurt half the season,
yeah.
um, and like they still almost made the playoffs even with all that. Like they're just I don't know. I'm obviously
Yeah, the Saints are like that dynasty manager
oh
that has like,
yeah
Joe Mixon and, Devontae Adams and, Mike Evans
yeah.
and
Dude,
like,
they might have like
all his old
CMC.
backs.
They might have
And
like
he just refuses to rebuild. Just
dude,
like, okay, I'm just going to trade my
the,
future first
yeah.
and maybe get some more old players and
Yeah,
just like I'm never going to admit that I need to rebuild and I'm just never going to win a
yeah.
championship.
They've never been on that Dynasty like Daddy before. They've never like looked at like a power ranking or anything. They don't even know
Yeah,
what that is. They're just like, I
right,
don't know, man. I think we got a chance here. I just gotta buy Raheem Mostert this year, and
right,
it's
right.
like,
Yeah.
he
Oh,
had
wait.
18 touchdowns last year. Like,
Like, oh, Odell Beckham's on waivers. Like, let me
yeah.
grab him.
Yeah, exactly. That is the kind of guy that went on Odell. So, like, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I mean, I actually like to think I play like Dynasty, kind of like the Vikings, where like it's kind of like that Tyreek Hill trade, right? It's like, okay, you know what? I am giving up like a good like whatever, like obviously a huge war difference maker. I'm very but I'm replacing him with like JJ McCarthy. Like I'm replacing with Garrett Wilson or whatever, right? And obviously it's more expensive to get like the JJ McCarthy, but there's a lot of benefits to it. Yeah, the contract, whatever. But I don't know. I guess that's kind of my analogy there of like play Dynasty like the Vikings and don't play it
Yeah.
like the Saints.
There
Always
you go.
always be one step ahead, but do it in a smart way.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
just see
Any
if anyone else
final
stands here.
any final thoughts looking at your portfolio players here?
I'm not really surprised by anything.
Mhm.
it feels like I have 0 Lamb. I have 2 though, which is good.
Mhm.
Both like really competitive rosters. I mean, yeah, I wish I had 3 Jaden Daniels. I wish I had 3 Kyler Murrays. I mean, 3.
Yeah.
Basically, I wish I had 3 of all of these guys I'm looking at. I mean, there's
Right.
just so
Right.
many good names here. I just I love these names, and you just can't have them all.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what leagues I yeah, okay, I do know which ones I have Kirk Cousins in. Coincidentally,
Mhm.
the same ones I have CeeDee Lamb in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I don't know. I scroll down this list and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just loving what I'm seeing. A lot of good names.
Yeah.
Obviously, some random ones that are just like, okay, I picked these
Mhm.
guys on the waiver wire, but
Yeah. But I mean, for like the most part, do you like how like the shares are spread out? Like, I mean, of course, you'd always love to have like even more shares of like the studs and everything like that. But in terms of like how, to what degree you want to place like the bets on, each of these different players that you like, do you kind of like how you have things spread out?
I think so. Um, I mean, again, when I'm looking at like I have 3 Brees Halls. I mean, that's not ideal in Dynasty because like,
Yeah.
I mean, I have like 12 teams, but
Yeah.
um, I think you and I might get off one potentially. I mean,
Sure.
if the right thing comes. But the 2 leagues I own them are just like perfect leagues to own them in, and like
Yeah,
one's
exactly.
paired with Bijan, one's paired with CMC, so it's like hell yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how can that go wrong. They're probably both gonna like die, but I don't know. I mean. I'm like one of the
I mean,
biggest RB faders as far as like dynasty, like at
yeah, I
startup.
mean, they do feel incredibly risky, and their values can go
Yeah,
to zero a lot quicker
any other
than you
league.
think. So yeah,
Yeah,
you really think twice about having like that much invested into a running back, like 3 shares of Brees, who costs like what
yeah.
typically costs like 3 first, somewhere between there. So it's a lot to have invested, but yeah, I
Oh,
mean the grand scheme of things. I mean it's what like it's a quarter of your
yeah.
leagues, and it's possible you get off one of the shares. So I think 2 to 3 shares of Brees is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think one thing at least, especially like I mean, I to me, I'm not okay. He's not my RB1 in the sense that it's like okay. I mean, CMC exists, but okay. Let's just say if CMC doesn't be the RB1, to me it's
Yeah,
Brees, and if that's the case, there, obviously there's gonna be a situation to sell. I think probably within the next year, getting off one Brees, yeah, it is probably a smart move for like the portfolio, and again, just like try to get him maybe break him up into like another good running back that is like seems
yeah,
to
down
be
here.
to
Yeah,
be just like excelling and but is cheap enough where it's like it makes sense and then get a bunch of stuff on top. So I don't know. Yeah, I'll keep my eyes on that. Other than that, I mean, it's just a bunch of receivers and tight ends and quarterbacks
yeah,
basically. I mean, and some rookies. So I'm a big fan of what I have here, obviously, because I mean I put them together. I mean, there's no like really surprise here to me. I don't know. Is there anything that like shocked you seeing my
not really.
portfolio?
I mean, these are definitely like all players that you like. So yeah, and we've the amount that we talk about Dynasty, both like on the YouTube channel and off of it. I mean, I definitely have a very good sense of like the players
Yeah,
you like, and yeah, this definitely reflects that.
yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing that really is too surprising or stands out. I mean, probably the biggest thing is just seeing like James Conner 7 shares. I mean, it doesn't shock me, but like, damn, like that is a
I
lot
didn't
of
realize
shares.
that. So
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
and I didn't realize you quite had 6 shares of Condre Miller, which I think
yeah,
is pretty awesome. It definitely is a lot though, and I mean those are
yeah,
both running backs obviously too. Now obviously neither of them are really expensive, so if either of them turns into nothing, it's not the end of the world.
yeah,
But it's interesting that how many you have of those 2 running backs.
yeah. It's funny. I mean, basically, a lot of these are from startups. Um, yeah, I mean, sometimes I got Connor Mill in a trade, but I mean, James Conner's like almost all from startups. I know I traded for him from you
Yeah.
and one. But one thing I didn't mention in Zamir White, completely skipped over him. I think I drafted him in like one startup this offseason, but oh yeah, and then I got him in that one. But yeah, these 3
Kind of
here,
in the dispersal draft
yeah,
and
yeah. The other 3 I got him like literally, I don't know, like round 20 or something, which is just like to me, I don't know, he's like a handcuff, and he's like I every time I saw him get his like 4 carries per season, uh, I just thought like, hey, like this guy looked kind of good. I mean, maybe he doesn't catch the ball, but I mean now he looked good when he was out there again. So I don't know, there was like he just caught my eye from the second I first seen him play on the NFL
Okay.
field, and he was like one of the cheapest handcuffs other than Ty Chandler. So him and
Yeah.
Ty Chandler, I was getting in like every draft I could.
Right.
Sometimes I was just too late on Zamir, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you hate this one here.
Davis Mills. Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm just
you
not
think
sure if he's the QB2 there.
I think he is, and
All right.
I'm trying to remember what happened, but like I don't know, he like hurt or something, and like Keenum came in, or I don't know. But
Yeah.
my only argument for him is like he has the best receiver core to throw into if anything happens to Stroud.
That's true.
And like I just don't even care. I'll just take anyone that How pumped up would Davis Mills be if Stroud goes down? And he's like Davis Mills is lining up, and he's going against like the worst secondary like that week or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
if he's starting, he's definitely a guy that would be like startable and super flex. So,
imagine he's going into like playoffs and you can trade in your league. Like you think you could sell him for like a second? I mean, it sounds like a stretch, but like.
If he's producing like Flacco, maybe, but like if it's less than that, probably not.
Dude, like no games played. Like he just goes in week 15, and and you're like, and this guy has no quarterback. Like I think you could like pull off a second somehow.
Oh no, because the thing is, like, I don't think people would even be confident that, like, even if he was named starter, it's like, oh well, is he going to get yanked and they're going to put in Keenum if he's not playing well right away? So
I don't know. Okay, maybe you get one game out of him. You're like, oh, he threw like 3 touchdowns. Hell yeah. So I don't know. I just like I got this like Davis Mills story going on in my head where it's like.
Yeah, I think you've gotten a little carried away with that.
I don't even know.
Don't give me a second for Davis Mills. Like
I mean, I've never actually thought that in my life before, but I'm just like, wait a second. Like this kind of like sounds like. I mean, people were setting a second for Josh Dobbs. I mean, come on, like you can get a second for anyone.
Okay, so I assume like people were paying a second for Flacco last year, right? When he was producing.
I never saw him traded. I just saw him on championship rosters, honestly.
Right. Right.
I did see. I think like in at least 2 leagues, Dobbs traded for a second, or just like something of equivalent at least.
Wow, crazy.
I mean, a guy literally wanted a first for Dobbs. I mean, he's a maniac, and that would never happen. But he's like, oh, dude, like, did you see what Dobbs did last week? Like, he didn't even have a playbook, and I'm like, well, yeah, man, but like. I mean, it's
probably worked
Dobbs,
in favor. You can say I played playground football, and that's probably suited him.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, come on, man. Like, we can talk a third. I don't want to give up third, but whatever. Anyways, yeah, I definitely didn't trade for any Josh Dobbs, so thank God.
Yeah, but interesting that like 4 out of your top like 5 most rostered players are running backs, though.
Yeah.
You think that's just maybe a result of like not wanting to invest like too much in the expensive guys? So you've kind of have found like this like cluster of like these like, undervalued running backs, and then just kind of loaded up on a bunch of shares of them.
Yeah, I think when you like look at here and you're like, okay, these are a lot of like Polk, Pittman, Jefferson, Hurts, and then you go down here again, a lot of like really elite skill position players. You can kind of see like where I'm trying to really go heavy on like receivers, quarterback, tight end.
Right.
And then my running back rooms, a lot of time when I'm starting, like especially at the startup draft, I'm putting like no investment in a running back because why would you? Especially in a startup, like it doesn't mean I can't be competitive. I still have a bunch of James Connors, just bodies at running back in Baker's backfields. But and oftentimes you're just seeing me place my bets like this, even guys like Chuba, where it's just like I don't know, he's a 1 injury away or whatever, right? Like, and then from being like a productive guy that you could start, I don't know. It's just kind of like a best ball thinking too, where my favorite guys to draft in underdog drafts are like, I mean, it's just not. I mean, yeah, again, I could make an argument for like, oh, Pacheco or Rashad White, but it's all like the Blake. It's like guys like around 11, like Blake Corum, guys later than that, Ty Chandler, Marshawn Lloyd, guys that are relatively free and have like legitimate upside to. I mean, you just saw what happened with Ty Chandler going in there immediately like lighting on fire. So, again, for me, I get it. Like, there's more expensive running backs. One guy that's, like, really mispriced, by the way, I'll point out, is, let's see if I can find him. How many I own him? Is Charbonnet. I only own 2 of them. In, like, every format, Charbonnet is, like, extremely discounted. I know that, like, this new regime hasn't drafted either of those running backs.
Right.
But to me, he just, like, really stands out as a guy that's, like, I mean, at some point, Kenneth Walker's, like, contract's going to expire. And, at worst, Charbonnet, it'll then be Charbonnet time. So like he should like hold his like value like theoretically until that time, and then you could just like sell him off at like a false increase of value.
Yeah, but aren't the Seahawks just probably going to draft another running back then,
Exactly.
and then it'll be Charbonnet and that guy, and then
But
plus
then
like
that guy will have to wait behind Charbonnet. But the whole point is like if someone goes down, I mean Charbonnet obviously was a second round talent. He is like you could argue he's expensive, but again from like a best ball, maybe more of a best ball format or whatever like underdog. He just goes like pick 134, like just like even behind guys like Corum and stuff like that. And I mean I get it. He's just I think he's just a really good value. He catches the ball and everything. So
yeah, he could be. I mean, he's a guy I never really see get traded. Maybe there's just like not that much demand for him. So maybe if you do want to buy some Charbonnet, like maybe it wouldn't be that hard. But yeah, he's not a guy I really like hear much about anymore. He's not a guy I really get see that I see get traded.
That's why he's a good buy. Let me just like give you another thing here of just like why it's Charbonnet I'm pointing out. Is like think about any other backfield, maybe like more of a redraft. Think about any backfield of where it's like, okay, these guys like are literally splitting time, especially like he's the pass catcher of the two. I mean, he's technically he's got the body to be the goal line guy. He doesn't seem to be, but no one is as mispriced. Like there's no gap between K9 and Charbonnet as there is like any other back. I'm just trying to like literally think of any other backfield now. I just can't. This is completely blanking in my mind. But I don't know.
You're saying there's not a talent gap between Walker and Charbonnet?
Like here's an example, like Connor and like Benson go back to back on underdog.
Right.
And then I'm just trying to think of like if I can see another guy. But yeah, I mean the talent gap, exactly. Like it just doesn't really matter. If like an injury happens to one, I mean, the other guy's gonna like probably get like boosted up.
Similarly,
like, you might as well just like bet on the guy that goes, I don't know, like 80 picks later.
Yeah, so there's a huge gap in terms of where they're going. So yeah, I mean that's a good point. Yeah, the gap probably shouldn't be that big. I mean, especially if you look at other examples where like, yeah, I mean, I assume like. I mean, Trey Benson, I assume, is getting like drafted in startups before James Conner, right?
Oh, like 7 rounds before or something.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, what's the difference with Charbonnet? I mean, I guess like the fact that like Kenneth Walker isn't like old like James Conner is, and so there's not the sense that like, oh, Zach Charbonnet is going to take this guy's job soon. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a weird situation how Walker and Charbonnet were like taken in like back-to-back drafts, but they were both taken with second-round draft capital. So like no one has the advantage. So like it's just kind of like a weird situation with those two. So yeah, I mean Charbonnet is just kind of like a guy that's sort of like kind of hard to know what to do with. I mean, obviously like he's a pretty high upside handcuff, but like is he anything more than that? I mean, like, do you expect him to like overtake Walker at some point without injury? I mean, do you see like any kind of chance of that?
I have no idea. I mean, Kenneth Walker is just like such a strange running back in himself because it's like, I don't know, like maybe this regime, again, like I think it's like new regime thing. We just don't know. It's kind of just like when that happens, it feels like it makes sense to just, hey, like, I don't know, they might just not like Kenneth Walker. They might just not fit what they want to do as much, and they might just give a bump to Charbonnet.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he's got some standalone value, but the whole point is like, okay, if injury happens, like you're walking in, this is a guy that, like, let's just say like K9 is one of the running back that catches an ACL or something. I mean, they're like, boom, 2 years out, like it's Charbonnet time. Like, all he needs to do is just like put up like 2 double-digit point weeks, and then he's like, boom, he's worth a first. Like it's just like, I don't know. That's the pick. Like it's more of a value kind of play. Of course, the production does go in there, but it's like, okay, what kind of profile can I get this late in drafts? It's like 12th round and later. There's no one. It's just Charbonnet. There's not a single guy. Right. Jalen Wright is like being drafted ahead of him in startups or just like around him. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's like too many people that are like really excited about Charbonnet because it just seems like the sense is that like if he was going to like take Kenneth Walker's job, it would have already happened. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. To your point, like the new coaching staff doesn't have any allegiances. So if they think Charbonnet is better or just fits their system better, then that could happen. So I would say that really could be considered like an ambiguous backfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone just assuming that like Walker is going to be the main guy and like Charbonnet is just going to be kind of like sprinkled in. But like, I mean, would you be shocked if like week one it was like 50-50 or if it was even like,
it already was 50-50 as far as snap share. Like,
well, and as far as snap share, but not as far as like carries and total touches and like things like that. So that's the thing. Like a lot of people like use that argument with Charbonnet, like, oh, like he's already like playing snaps, but it's like, but wait, he's getting like 5 carries a game, it's like, who cares,
Yeah, he's not getting like the as valuable ones. But yeah, again, I mean, like he still could get like the 50 snaps, and then like what if he gets 50% of the workload? I mean, hey, that's like, I don't know. I mean, people are like drafting Jalen Warren ahead of him in the Dynasty, which I get it because like Jalen Warren is already like this kind of electric player. There's the whole new regime for him, but like people are like, okay, here's a good example. People like Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are being drafted like in every format beside each other. Yeah. And like Najee Harris is the guy that's actually like gonna get like the K9 volume. But
I would agree. I would say like, I mean, based on last year, like Jalen Warren like had like a fantasy relevant role, even with Najee healthy, where you could like start Warren.
Yeah.
Much week in, week out. There was never a point that you could start Charbonnet when Walker was healthy. Yeah. He was only relevant when Walker was injured. So that's the difference there.
My counterpoint is when Jalen Warren was a rookie, you couldn't start him either, which again is like not the greatest point, but like again, like Charbonnet was just a rookie. Like I will give him.
Oh yeah, I mean I agree. I mean he definitely seems like a huge value, and things could change. So yeah, and that's what I was starting to say earlier is that like. Would you be shocked if, in terms of the workload, like total touches, like rushing attempts plus catches, would you be shocked if like that was like 50-50 week one, or if it even like favored Charbonnet by a little bit? Like, so I don't think people are accounting for those possibilities.
Yeah, like I just don't think anyone would truly be shocked. I mean, I get it. Like everyone was hot on K9 for like he was getting like drafted like 2-3 turn before Sharp got drafted there in Dynasty, but. I don't know. Yeah, I it's just like how I want to play. It's just more of. I mean, I don't even really care about how good Charbonnet is. Honestly, it's just kind of like the cop out. Like, it's just like looking for something that's mispriced. Is basically what it is.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
I mean, I'll let like his draft profile and everything. Like, I mean, he was the only people that were ahead of him in that draft class. Which is not a great point, but it was like Bijan and Gibbs who were drafted first, and he still got like that second round capital. So. I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, I don't think he's like a world beater like running back, but he can kind of do it all. He's like he's like the guy where like he just goes if he goes in like he's gonna be awesome basically.
Yeah.
You just know like he's got everything that you want.
Do you think there will ever be an NFL season where an NFL team goes into the year with like Zach Charbonnet as our RB1?
I mean, I don't know. Probably. Yeah. I mean, he like I can see it in the fact that like. Again, he's literally like a 3-down back, right?
Yeah, he can do it. Yeah.
He's got the size. He can run it, whatever. He run between the tackles and he can catch the ball and he can block.
Yeah,
right? I mean that's all you need.
Oh yeah, definitely versatile.
So yeah, I mean I don't know. Is he that good? I hope so. He got drafted in the second round, like probably right where Jonathan Brooks was, right? I mean. So I hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that. I mean, like, yeah, like with Jonathan Brooks, like, oh man, they got the second round draft capital. But like Charbonnet, like, no one really seems to care that much just because like he didn't do a lot as a rookie. So
again, yeah, I don't want to like hang on the draft capital that much, but it's just like it's been 1 year. If we see another year where it's just like, okay, this guy's like sucks or something, then like, okay, I'm willing to give up. I mean, I only have like 2 Charbonnets, but I think he's a guy. If he just like keeps eventually getting cheaper, if you can get him for like a third at some point. I don't know. You just might as well just take it. Like you just might as well just do it and just smash it. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I don't know. I just think he's like one of those like randomly mispriced running backs. For
I'd agree. I mean, I don't have any shares of Charbonnet, but yeah, I mean, it might be fun to see like, could I send out some offers and maybe get a share or 2 of him like pretty dirt cheap? So it might be worth a try.
Probably potentially the best way, because like it might be hard to pry him off the guy that like drafted him in the first round.
Yeah.
You could just like have him slipped in, kind of like how you did with Jahan Dotson to me. And it's just like he has nothing to do with the trade, but you see as Zach Charbonnet, and it's like, you just kick me back, Zach Charbonnet, and I'll,
yeah, exactly.
You can throw the third in, and you can like almost get him for a third, but like.
Yeah.
Like just kind of by adding it into a deal.
Yeah, you have to be a bit sneaky about it. If you just send it out and off like a random offer out of the blue, like,
Yeah.
third for Charbonnet. The person gonna be like, like, why does he want Charbonnet? What does he know? Like, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I need a
yeah.
second for him. I think I need a
But like,
second for Charbonnet.
I mean, I guess this is like, again, this is like a really bad argument, but like, what if, like, again, the new regime, what if Charbonnet just like randomly starts getting like, oh, like they love Charbonnet, you know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah,
anything like that did happen, I know you can say this
right.
about any player, but
Yeah,
like, because of Charbonnet's profile, like,
yeah,
he's extreme, like, he will shoot to the moon in the fact that people will be like, holy crap, like, we need to go back in, like, it's just
yeah,
like how like people's minds work and how the Twitter machine there works. So I've seen it too
yeah.
many times. So
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like a guy sort of gets like forgotten about, but he had like a good profile coming in and good draft capital, and then it's like he gets forgotten about, and then when he starts getting buzz again, that's like all of a sudden you instantly remember all those things that
dude,
everyone had just forgotten about.
let yeah, let's look here. Like, I mean, this will be the real test here. If
Okay.
Jameson Williams is worth more than Zach Charbonnet,
Mhm.
then that's all I need to see. If he's like significantly more valuable,
Probably like a couple hundred more. Yeah, I
okay,
knew it.
he's a couple hundred more, but it's like, okay, Jameson Williams, he, he's done nothing. But like, he's getting the camp hype, so like let's just like look at his profile again here. Like, let's just see how his profile is reacted here. Okay, actually, like, hasn't spiked. Like, I assumed it would have spiked like up like this, based
Yeah,
off like the Dan Campbell stuff. But like, I guess he did get like a little bit of like a couple
small
hundred
one.
more,
Yeah.
but just off the training camp stuff or whatever, the mini cap. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just again, I don't I don't know. I'd rather have Zach Charbonnet than Jameson Williams. Personally. I don't see really a world where like Jameson Williams, you can just like throw him in the lineup. And here's like another good thing with Charbonnet, or just like any running back. We're talking way too much about Charbonnet, but it's
Yeah, I
like,
know, right?
yeah, it's like, I think it's just like an interesting conversation. I mean, even if you don't know when to start him, like, the best thing about like a running back like him is you'll at least know when the time is to start him, so like you don't have to waste your starts on him, whatever.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
you just don't know when to start Jameson Williams. Like, you're like, oh, like he played the Niners he plays the Niners this week. Oh, I mean, hey, I remember he scored 2 touchdowns against the Niners, one in garbage time. Whatever, like last year in the playoff game or whatever. But like, that's all you got to go off of, right? Like, there's no analytics that can tell you when to start a guy like that. So
Yeah, I mean, unless like the real unlikely happens and like Jameson Williams is just like this huge breakout and he's like this awesome guy that like you can pretty much like start every week. I mean, short of that, like, yeah, he's not likely to be someone that like you're ever going to feel like great about having in your lineup. You're not going to really know what you're going to get each week. So yeah, with Charbonnet, like you're generally going to know when to start him. So I definitely think there's some underappreciated value in that when you're thinking about like running back versus a wide receiver.
yeah, and I think that's probably why you'll see a lot of running backs like higher than this. It's because like I value knowing when to start people, I guess. So it's like,
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of just like, I don't want to have to make any guesses at receiver, but at running
Yeah.
back, I want
So
to
yeah,
start.
it's just
I was like,
yeah, it's just
oh, here you go.
go ahead.
Okay, I was just saying, yeah, again, to the point, you'll just know, like, receivers, like, when they get injured and stuff, like, I guess they get a bump if someone else gets hurt, but, like, talent is the most important thing, where, like, running backs, talent matters, but, I mean, truly, like, I mean, you're never going to start Elijah Mitchell, but if he's the handcuff and CMC goes down, like, he's the hottest waiver wire pickup in all of fantasy, and you're going to be starting him, like, in every single like format. So I mean,
Yeah,
I value
it's definitely
that.
like it's the Scott Connor, it's the classic like Scott Connor roster construction of like just like invest in like whatever like 6 or 7 like really great wide receivers like have like the value tied up there and like some like just like a really good handful of wide receivers to like kind of build your team around, and then after that it's just like any running back on a 53, just load up with like a ton of running backs and then just like wait for injuries to happen and don't have much invested there. So yeah, I mean, so like, do most of your dynasty teams look like that? Because I mean, I definitely think that's good strategy, and I definitely implement that to a degree, but certainly not like to that extreme. Like in most cases, like I mean, I don't 100% agree with like how much Scott Connor like fades like the lesser receivers. I still think there's some value to be gained there. But and I mean, I'm guessing Scott Connor probably didn't get too much Puka Nacua or Tank Dell last year.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I still find myself kind of like, maybe a bit of a sucker for like these like kind of lower tier wide receivers that I think like, could break out. And I probably roster a few, too many of them. But yeah, I mean, how about you? Like, are you pretty disciplined about like getting rid of those like roster clogger receivers, or do you find yourself like still believing in certain guys?
I'm like, I'll give him a season. Like, not Charles, other Tillman, Cedric Tillman. I just like, he was out in the field. I see what I need to see. They draft a receiver, like get him the hell off my or they trade for a receiver, like get him off my roster. Like there's no need to roster a guy like that. Like I guess like that is a good thing. I want to like see the receiver. Hopefully, I guess I think if you draft a receiver that has immediate opportunity, like you'll probably know just based off how any probability kind of works when a guy is like actually just like on the field running. Like if he's like the cardio king, you might as well try to trade him away. Or I mean, like Quentin Johnson. Like I mean, if he hits, hey, I missed out. I was wrong. I'm fine missing out. Jameson Williams, same thing. I don't care to roster those guys one bit. I mean, even if they were free, I'd only take them to trade them again. Here, let's scroll through a couple rosters. Like, here's an example of how I've been attacking startups this year. Basically, again, I didn't invest like too heavily in receiver, but the reason why is because like I have a bunch of draft picks. I have like 6 seconds, right? So like, I mean, again, you see like Burtons and Polks and stuff here. I mean,
I think a lot of like the lower tier receivers that I have are like cheap guys. Like, they're like rookies. They're guys I got off the waiver wire or maybe with like a late draft pick and a rookie draft or something like that. So I don't have like too much invested into like
you have like guys that are like worth, I don't know, like not a second, but like a third or something like that. Like I don't really own any guys like that, I guess, in that like range of receiver. If that makes sense. Like, I mean, I own like one Curtis Samuel, but I guess like that would count as like a guy that's like, do you own anyone like that?
So someone that's worth what you said, like between like a second and a third?
Like, yeah, he's like kind of like the Jameson Williams tier, where he's just like, you couldn't get a second for him, but like you wouldn't really want to.
But you wouldn't give him up for a third.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have 2 Jameson Williams shares, but like one I inherited and one I just like needed to get in order to like make a trade happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't typically like roster guys like that. Like I had one Treylon Burks that I inherited. I was able to trade him away. Same with who's that Giants receiver, Jalen Hyatt. Like I inherited a share of him that I traded away. So yeah, I try to get out on those guys. Yeah. But like what I do like are like some of those like wide receivers on the waiver wire that like I think are like good players that just haven't had a full opportunity yet to like show what they can do. Like Calvin Austin, Xavier Gibson, maybe even like a Tyler Scott, just some like random guys like that I kind of believe in a little bit.
They're free. Like that's the difference.
Yeah, they're free. Exactly.
There's literally no cost but to roster them. Real quick.
Yeah.
What are your like thoughts on Wicks? Because I own him in like 2 leagues now.
Yeah.
I actually drafted him, it's funny because like both times I drafted him, one of them was actually in that little weird draft, was a dispersal draft.
Oh, dispersal, yeah.
I never thought I would get him in these drafts because like there's always someone in a league that's like high on him. Like someone took him in like the 9th round of our league, which is like, I mean, there's just like no logic that can back that up. Even if he like pays off, it just like you just don't have to draft him that high. What do you like think about Wicks, or like I don't know, just give me a quick little.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like kind of scouting him last year. When he was a rookie, like coming into like the NFL draft, and I didn't like love what I saw like on tape. I mean, again, like I'm not a scout or anything, so I mean, take my thoughts on that with a grain of salt. But I mean, I wasn't like blown away by him. So like, I didn't get any shares of him in like rookie drafts or even like, after just like signing guys off of waivers. But I mean, you have to give him credit. I mean, he produced when he was in there, and I know he has like a lot of good like metrics of like how he performed. Like, I think like, yards per route run and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely it seems like there's some good data to suggest that He's, good at football. He's a pretty good wide receiver. So of course it's like such a crowded wide receiver room there in Green Bay. I mean, they have like 5 different guys that can produce when they get an opportunity. So kind of an ambiguous wide receiver room. So yeah, I mean, I don't own any shares of Wicks. I did get a share of him through a trade, but then I like traded him away because like I wasn't like dying to own him, and I think I flipped him for like a second, which I was happy about.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd do that all day. But yeah, he's just kind of like whatever. I mean, like he's not a guy like I'm dying to roster because like I feel like his trade value is like more appealing than like his actual value to me when sitting on my roster.
Yeah, the issue is like I don't know if there's like ever a situation where like even makes sense to roster him because you're like, if I can get like a second for him, like I might
just cash out.
But it's like, if I can just like turn him into a more productive player, like or whatever, just like add something onto him to like get. I mean, you get to like Calvin Ridley in that case where you like him. I mean, it just like doesn't make sense to me. But like I say that as I own 2, but like I got him for like dirt cheap, and people like him. That's kind of like a big thing. And again, he's like, let's just compare him to like Lab McConkey now. But like, I mean, like his per route stuff was insane. But like the issue is like obviously he's in with 4 receivers.
Yeah, the problem is like I don't even know that he's like a top 3 starting receiver on his NFL team. So it's like, why would I keep that guy around if I can just get a second for him? You know what I mean? Because like there's a chance he's still the like wide receiver 4 on the team.
Yeah.
And then like I'm not starting him unless there's an injury. So it's just like, why even take that risk with him? And then his trade value is going to go down, and then I'm going to be wishing that I had sent him away for a second. So I'd rather just get a second for him and then pick Bo Melton off the waiver wire because, like, I mean, I like Bo Melton almost as much as I like Wicks. You know what I mean? I mean, like, it's kind of like the same thing. I think they're both like pretty talented receivers that could like climb up the depth chart. Or they could just stay where they are, and then you just have to wait for an injury before they're productive. So it's just like I'd rather just take Melton for free. I have a lot of shares of him. I can't remember what I think I have like 4 shares of Melton, something like that. So yeah, I'd just rather have him and just cash out on Wicks.
Yeah. So I mean, I just keep noticing is like any receiver in this range of like Wicks, Williams, like. I don't know. I mean, it's not like you can't, like, there will be a guy that just, like, pops out of that tier or whatever, that profile and is like, oh, you should have had him. But, again, you'll just, like, never know when to start this guy. Like, I'm saying, I own him, at least I own him in a start 11, where it's like, worst case, and it's like a tight end premium. I don't know. I mean,
start 11, he's a little more appealing because the thing is, like, even let's say, like, Christian Watson gets injured, and then let's say Wicks is the next man up, and he's starting in 3 wide receiver set.
You can start.
I mean, obviously you would know then, like, okay, he's at least in play to start, and he's probably gonna produce more often than not. But still, like, there could be some unpredictability and variability there in terms of like, okay, is this gonna be a Jaden Reed week? Is this gonna be a Romeo Dobbs week? Or is this like Wicks? Or is this tight ends? Or
if he's like a top 3 at that point, you could like throw him in like.
Start 11 for sure.
11 for sure.
But if it's like start 9, you're going to be wondering like, God, like, I know Wicks is starting, but like, do I feel great about him this week? Do I start him or?
It's just like you just never know. And it's funny because like Wan'Dale Robinson is like in my head now is like a better start than like all these guys like Jameson Williams, Quentin Johnson, and stuff like that. Like I just like there's no doubt in my mind he's a better start, but like. I mean, we just die. Who knows? Like, I don't know. It's week 1. We'll like answer a bunch of questions or whatever. Like,
I mean, we'll see. I mean, Wan'Dale's not a guarantee, but I mean, I would certainly like down tier from Wicks to Wan'Dale if I can get something on top.
Yeah, dude. We were trying to move him for like a 310 just in the midst of like rookie height. Couldn't even get like a response back on that. So like.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy like how low people are on Wan'Dale. So yeah, I mean, I should probably even try to get like more shares of him because he's just like almost free. It seems like.
Again, it's like free. There's a lot of stuff to at least like. Obviously, it's a bad situation, but it's like it's all baked in is like price of like the situation he's in, and like I think like way overbaked. But yeah, I think like
also that'd be another good tear down from like JMO. Like if you have like a JMO share that like you just can't like give him away, like find your Wan'Dale Robinson owner in your league and see if you can down tier to Wan'Dale and like I don't know what could you get? Could you get a third on top of Wan'Dale? You think maybe to go in from JMO?
Probably. Like I
Yeah,
would
I feel
probably
like
say so because like if the guy, you basically when you're like trading JMO, you're doing anything you can to get like close enough to like a second in value.
right.
So like I think that would work out. Like you could just get
Yeah.
Wandale's probably gonna outproduce him, and then the third.
Yeah, I mean, like if the guy is even halfway a JMO believer, I feel like
Yeah.
and he doesn't like Wandale, I feel like he'd throw a third on top of Wandale.
I
Like
don't even. I don't even think a guy needs to be a or whatever, a Jameson believer, like with all the
yeah,
hype, because
yeah,
it can almost like be like you like in the sense that you're like, okay, I guess I'll just like take him, and
yeah,
like I don't want to like miss out. It can almost be like the FOMO.
yeah. It's just okay. I'll get rid of like a quote unquote roster clogger and Wandale.
Yeah, they're like a third for.
Throw a late pick and at least upgrade to a guy that has some hype, and if he hits, like he'll be worth
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just don't want to make those bets. But one thing I was just thinking with Wix, and I mean, it's hard. It would be hard for Wix, but maybe a little bit easier for Dick JMO.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like maybe a better way to like add it, especially if you needed like a producing receiver? Do you think you could just like add a random like? Cause look how many seconds I have, or
Yeah.
I guess like 4 here. Can you add like a second to like Wix or like any JMO type there, and like try to like pray you can get to, like Mike Evans and like Cup and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I know that you're technically the second could be worth more than them, but like also Wix could just be like literally worth nothing, and then if you're competing, like, I mean,
Yeah.
you're,
I mean that seems a little expensive to me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, is Mike Evans going for like 2 seconds these days in Dynasty?
I mean, I don't know. It depends. Like, basically in startup value, all these guys are like going in like, I don't know, again, it'll depend on draft, but like the 7th, like maybe the late 8th latest, like they kind of all just like cluster off the board.
Yeah.
I mean, we can just see where like we drafted Mike Evans here, by the way. That might just give us like a.
I mean, it's just funny. It's just funny about Mike Evans how like a couple years ago or whatever. I mean, he was just a guy. It's just like, oh God, like get off of him. Like he's old. Like get a late first while you can.
Oh, okay.
And he's not going to be good that much longer. But like now that he's coming off like a really good year, it's like I don't know. People act as if like he's going to be great for like another like 3-4 years. You know what I mean? It's just like I mean he might. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, but like he could also like hit the wall really fast and just like not be that great anymore.
He could, but like, I mean, again, I don't expect like a top 5 over like receiver season. It's just like, okay, can you give me a top 24 receiver season for a couple of years? I mean, hopefully more. Like, hopefully, like it's like a wide receiver 12 or better. I mean, that's what you could like expect. Hopefully, and like he is a guy where like he's got a pretty safe floor, but like also has a pretty large ceiling. So he just like is appealing. I think at like Cup, I just think he can be like a top 5 receiver. I like in the fact that like you're getting him for nowhere near that price. And again, he can keep playing for a couple more years. I'm not expecting these guys to play into 34 years old. Maybe just like get 2 more seasons out of him, hopefully, and I'd be happy.
Yeah. I think it's just. Go ahead.
I was just saying like, the second is very valuable, but like, I mean, I have these seconds to buy players like that in the first place, and Wix is probably more artificial value than anything.
I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. I mean, I don't know if it is artificial value because, like, I successfully in a league that we're in, I traded Wix and got a second. Now the guy was a Packers fan, so like maybe I got a little lucky on that. So I'm not saying like you could do that in every league. I mean, I don't know. Do you want to pull up like keep trade cut and like what's Wix's value?
Let me like clear it up. Like what I mean by artificial value is like it's just like Jameson Williams, like all these guys where they're like artificially increased in value. Not in the sense that you can't trade them for that.
Yeah,
but
like
they're just way more expensive than they should be because this is the off season and people have nothing to talk about. But
I would just say like they're overpriced rather than yeah.
I mean, you can say the reason I'm thinking is like artificial is just because like
I know what you mean. Yeah, I just think of like
everything backing up. The training or whatever, the mini camp. Yeah, so they're overpriced.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but
they could be closer to like, I mean, almost like hurting. Sometimes it's like could hurt you to own a guy like this. Because, again, it's like the clogging theory there, and then maybe you're, like, throwing them in the lineup, and they're just, like, anything that you do with them is, like, hurting you more than anything.
Yeah, but, I mean, I would rather have 2 seconds than Mike Evans personally. So, I mean, I don't know, like, where you stand on that, but, like, basically that's why I wouldn't do the trade, because, like, if there's a chance I can get a second for Wix, I
Okay.
would rather just do that and then hold on to my other second. And then, so now I got
Yeah,
2 seconds.
I agree.
And I'm I'm just not the type to like really like have a lot of old receivers on my roster. I mean, I definitely see like how they serve a purpose. I mean, I do have like the 2 Calvin Ridley shares, just because he's so dirt cheap. Um, and I did buy like 1 Stephon Diggs share, kind of like just for fun. I don't normally make a move like that. It was for a contender though.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got like a decent deal on it. So, but yeah, for the most part though, I just don't tend to roster those guys. I'd rather just, I typically like get out on them like when their value is like still pretty high and I can get like a, late first for them or whatever. And then I just kind of like re-roll at that point. And I'm just not a big fan of having guys like die on my roster. But I mean, if they win you a championship, I can understand, going that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mixed because like I don't own a lot of them, but like the way I've been attacking startups, I own more of those guys
Mhm.
this year. Where like
Yeah.
my ones drafted last year, I don't really own like any of those guys.
Right.
But again, I agree. Like I'd rather have 2 seconds than those guys. But
Yeah.
again, I'm just like, and you mentioned it, you can trade it for like a second, but like, will you get that every time? Probably
Right.
not. But if you can't like seem to get off of them, like just no one will
Yeah.
pay the price, that could be like a good pivot. Um,
Yeah, I could see that. Like if I'm in a league where like I can't move Wicks to save my life, but
yeah,
then like I can throw him into a package with a second to get a receiver that I
yeah.
actually care about and will actually like
Again,
score some points in my lineup week in, week out, and I'm a contender. Like, yeah, I could see like in that circumstance, like kind of settling for a deal like
like
that.
maybe you get like a fourth back or there's like something like sneaky
Some kind of
back
pick
too.
flop. Yeah,
Cowing.
I could see that.
If I say cowing back, you're gonna love it. So
Oh yeah. Well,
um,
hey, that's just not fair, if it's
like a
cowing.
Tracy or something. So yeah,
By
I
the way,
own.
I'm impressed that when we were looking at your portfolio, I was pretty impressed and proud to
You're
see
like,
the
oh,
shares of cowing that you had. Like
six
I
K,
have to think I had a little
yeah,
something to do with that.
5 bubs too. So
5 bud
that
means, oh
doesn't
my
go
god! Like
unnoticed.
I've taught you well.
Yeah. So and then I gotta see like an Nia Smith. There you go, 4 Nia Smiths for you. So
Beautiful.
there you
I'm
go.
very impressed.
So
Very impressed.
by the way, let's go quick. I'll basically show you a couple rosters here. So like
Okay.
this is one of like a startup this year. So again, now this is okay. This is not the best one. I'll go to another one because this is like an extreme, like pretty high tight end premium. So like our receivers are like actually tight ends. Like we didn't have to
Okay.
invest heavily in receivers.
Right.
Which one is this? Oh, so okay. So here's one I did, just under like standard 0.5 premium. I have investment receiver as far as like okay, Puka and Pittman are like cornerstone guys. Okay, Evans, how did I acquire him? Okay, I made this trade here. So this was the one where I was like, okay, I think Evans can be more productive this year than Jaden Reed. I think Burton can hopefully like close a gap on Jaden Reed as far as like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like hard to just flat out lose the trade unless both these guys just flat out stink.
Yeah.
But I get the 2 bets versus the 1.
Yeah,
And
like that's the kind of deal I like if I'm getting Mike Evans. Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that, like you're not only getting Mike Evans, you're also getting Jermaine Burton. So you're getting a young, explosive, like fun receiver with some exciting upside.
Yeah.
And that really helps like mitigate the risk of like trading away a Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
The fact that you get like an old productive guy, Mike Evans, and like a young, exciting guy with upside. So like I love that kind of trade.
Yeah, then like if Burton hits theoretically, and Mike Evans helps you win a championship, you're like, dude, I mean, I just like killed that trade.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're getting the best of both worlds there, so that would be beautiful.
Yeah, like again, it could like, it's like made so like one of the sides like can't really work, like doesn't have to work out, and then you can still be happy with the trade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have two
Yeah.
ways that you could win the trade. Because yeah, even if Burton is nothing, but like Mike Evans is like awesome for another 2 years, and you win a championship, then like you're still happy.
Yeah, like I don't need to like win every trade come 2 years from now and like a value. Like this is a really interesting roster I pieced together because like, I mean, I just kind of let the draft take me where it is. I mean, let's look at my seconds. I have 6 seconds. Honestly, like this first looks like not too bad at all. I mean, well, like Polk, Burton on the bench, they're kind of hidden away just because like I got Corum hidden away. I think there's a Flacco here somewhere. So, it's just like I got a bunch of like veteran running backs and Corum, and if I need anything more, I'll buy one. So I mean, this is how I like to start attack every startup right now, right?
Yeah.
And this is how all my rosters will look. I'll be cheap, veteran invested, and I'll figure that out over the course of the next year.
Mhm.
If they burn to dust, I don't think it kills me at all. And I mean, I got like most of like the 14th round or something. Yeah, 14th
Mhm.
round. So, and then all I do is I focus on every other position on my roster, and then come when you know I got everything built out, then it's like, hey, okay, now we can kind of splurge and get a Brees Hall or something. So
Mhm.
here, here's the roster we a long time ago were mentioning.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just like this is like art to my eyes here. Like it's just like looking at like the Mona Lisa or something, where except like Will Levis ruins it all.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know,
the one, kind of black mark on this otherwise pristine starting lineup here.
we'll figure it out,
Yeah.
some way. But I mean, you just look across the board. It's like, dude, there's not a guy over like 20. I mean, I mean, I'm really an ageist in this one, but
Yeah.
on the bench, like, I mean, you just see like every stashed running back. Like, look, like you just can't sell these guys right now because like no one wants them, no one
Yeah.
cares until like they're actually on the field.
Yeah.
So the time will come to sell these guys. But like, wow, what a like room, and then you get the boys here. Like what a stack here.
Oh yeah, you got like all my favorite like cheap rookie receivers. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, this roster is definitely a thing of beauty.
yeah.
So the question is this your favorite roster, or would it be the Grease Bowl one?
No, but like this is like sneakily like a really great roster that I don't give like enough credit to until like now when I'm like looking at it,
Yeah.
and like just tickle that Levis out there, put made a Rudolph in. That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm glad you got Rudolph on this team. So that
yeah,
makes it you feel a little better about Levis in case he sucks.
this is like yeah, exactly. I mean, if I have to keep Levis, this is like how I want to build every roster, and it'll never happen. I mean, I guess it doesn't
Yeah.
look as good right now because like I technically got like Hopkins and like Ferg in there, but like we own like
Yeah.
Hawk and we got. I mean, I guess we technically don't really have like a better guy than Hopkins, but like we got some boys on like Moss and Ford.
I think like I could see like Jerome Ford like in your starting lineup over Hopkins. I mean, I know like
yeah,
it's still up in the air with like whether Nick Chubb is going to be like available or not like at the start of the season. But I mean, I'd probably have like Ford over Hopkins, but I don't know.
yeah. I mean, we'll see and see whatever the hell happens.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, yeah.
yeah,
Obviously, you don't have to
Chubb.
decide your
I
starting
mean, I don't
lineup
know.
right now in
I mean,
freaking June. So
yeah, I
yeah.
mean Moss. Like the point is, like I got guys to like
Oh yeah, you got Zach Moss too.
play the
Yeah,
matchups, and then like you still got like all those rookie running backs that snagged off the wire, and then like
yeah.
Mitchell. So like, yeah, I mean I have enough depth. I still have like picks and stuff like that. I mean this roster is just like insane. We were mentioning, like I mean technically like Ferg actually could be like my flex guy, but like when Hawk comes back,
Oh sure, yeah.
the one
Yeah,
like
I think Ferguson could have a big season. Like I'm
yeah.
pretty high on him.
Yeah, I definitely like Ferguson. He's like not that expensive, and
Oh yeah.
especially if it's like not a premium. I mean, I like him even more, but
Yeah,
um,
I wonder how tough Ferg would be to trade for in a tight end premium. Like let's just say like it's, 1.5 PPR for tight ends. Like what do you think he had to like send away to get like Ferguson? Like it would have to
honestly,
be
he's
2 seconds
2 seconds. No,
in a tight end premium.
like just like a 0.5.
Yeah, 0.5 tight end premium.
Definitely not 2 seconds. Like the reason I say
Wow,
that
okay.
is like I was like kind of value him as like near an early second, but then
Okay.
I was like seeing like where everyone else values him,
Yeah.
and like they just don't really care about him. So I wouldn't.
Interesting. I mean, if that's the case, I feel like I should be trying to buy some Ferguson.
Yeah, so like I don't really like. I don't think you need to pay as much as you think for Ferguson. It just obviously depends on who owns them
Yeah.
more so
So
than
I mean, you
anything.
think like maybe like a second plus, like maybe like a kind of
Dude,
interesting like bench player thrown in or something,
like
rookie kind of thing.
you might be able to just like get them. Like I mean, I'm again. It depends the second and whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like you can just like start with a second and then just
Start with a second and like kind of
then
go from there. Yeah.
and then
Interesting.
see what they think because like yeah, I got Ferguson in like a tear down trade and I mean I don't know, I like the price on him, but
Yeah.
he's like a really weird guy to price just because I don't know. I mean, some people don't like him and people I don't know, whatever. It's kind of hard.
Couldn't he be like the Cowboys starting tight end for like quite a while?
Yeah, I mean, and then he'll eventually like go to play with C.J. Stroud in a few years.
There you go. Yeah, he's just taking like the Dalton Schultz path.
Yeah, and then who was the guy before that? Was there not like a guy before that? I'm trying to think of like
I'm trying to remember now.
that
Oh,
like
well, it
followed
was
the same
Jason
path.
Witten, you mean? Or
No, in between that, I don't know. Maybe I'm just making things up in my head of like.
I remember now. Was there a tight end between Witten and Dalton Schultz? Or was it
I mean, there
maybe
was
there
like
was kind of
Blake
like
Jarwin for like half a season.
Blake Jar? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there
Okay,
was him. Yeah.
so definitely not him I was thinking about, but
He had like, did he have like a 3 touchdown game? But like other than that, he was just like nothing.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Basically, this is how I want every roster to come out, Dan. And then, I mean, I literally had 0 running backs going into this offseason because this was a productive struggle build. I mean, everything went right. I mean, this entire roster's turned over. The only guy I own that I drafted was Hawkinson.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, everything went right. This is obviously my favorite roster. And
Yeah, I mean it's beyond loaded.
yeah, exactly.
And it's young because like I mean you made that Tyreek Hill trade that you were talking about earlier, so like you basically turned Tyreek Hill into Garrett Wilson. You just had to throw on Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
But then you also got like Cowing and a third thrown in, so I mean that was a great deal. So
yeah,
I mean this squad could be good for quite a while.
yeah. I mean, I think when people like actually I showed it like I don't know. I was talking like this is like a funny like little story. I was talking I was talking like Dynasty with like a buddy that like I got into like Dynasty some more. Like he was in a league, but like it folded, and who knows what kind of like clown show like league he was in.
Right.
So him and I were talking like we were gonna play like a football game, like actually just like we were in a touch football league. He's my quarterback,
right.
And yeah, his twin brother was there, but their buddy like that's on our team, a guy I don't really know other than the team, joins us, and like to my surprise, like he also plays Dynasty, like
nice.
like in like 3 leagues, and I'm like like he's in this. I mean, I could kind of like get like suspect like what kind of like Dynasty player he is, and like obviously he's not like us like live streaming at like 2 a.m.
Right,
talking about Dynasty for hours.
Seriously.
He's like the normal, I guess, like just like fantasy player, but it was like so funny to like hear, like so interesting to hear what like a normal person like how they run their team. Like, dude, I was just like trying to like hold back from being like, why? And then this is the best part. He's like, oh, like, let's see a team you got, and I'm like, oh, dude, like I got a perfect team to show you. Like, you know, this is like an awesome like team.
Yeah.
He looks at my starting roster. He's like, oh, how do you get those guys? I'm like, oh, there's a lot of like good trading around and stuff like that. He's like, oh, like you got nothing on your bench, and I'm like, dude, like I got like 3, like at the time I had like 3 seconds and stuff like that. I'm like, I got like I'm like, dude, like I don't know, like I mean, like I have picks, like I have like literally like whatever, like Hawkinson like on IR or whatever and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like you're acting like, and then I think it was like Hopkins was on the bench at that time because it's still a K9. I'm like, dude, like I don't know, like how you like, do you think I should just have like Amon-Ra St. Brown on my bench? Like,
right.
Like should I just like not be optimizing my starting lineup and like, have
right.
And then this is the best part, like he was showing me his roster. It was like a start 8-1 QB. He owned like, let me remember it. It was like, okay, it was Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, and Deshaun Watson. And he was telling me, oh, this guy's trying to sell me Josh Allen. Yeah. And like the price was like dirt cheap for like a 1 QB start 8. And I'm like, dude, what, like accept that, man. Like,
oh my God.
I'm like, it's start 8. Like you have like Waddle and like London on his bench. And I'm like, you got like a pretty good team. And I'm like, dude, just like literally package all these players together, go get Jefferson, Chase, and Allen. Like, and he's just like, no, like I need the depth. Like,
oh my
I like
God.
my trifecta. And it's just like, dude, like, how are you gonna ever like care about Deshaun Watson? Like, I get it. Like, we like Jared Goff.
Start 8, 1 quarterback. Like depth, like matters. Like it's just like completely meaningless. Like you trade like your whole bench to get like a Josh Allen in a format like that.
The best part is like he's like, oh, like I'm bringing in like Marvin Harrison. Like he's gonna be like my like 7th receiver, and it's like, dude, oh my God, like just
who cares? He's gonna be like on your bench every week, you know? Like turn it into something that'll like help your starting lineup. Oh my God.
I thought that was like probably one of the funniest things because like I don't just like randomly run into people that are like playing Dynasty on the street, but like there's probably a pretty good chance if you like met someone that just like randomly is playing Dynasty that they're just like not live streaming at 2 a.m. or
Pretty good
watching a
chance.
live stream at 2 a.m. or
Right.
whatever, anything near that. And they're
Yeah.
probably still like, because like Dynasty is becoming more and more like of like a casual thing. Although you could
Okay.
like
Yeah.
argue it technically probably was like pretty casual in the sense that like there was just like not very much data back then, and like people were
Mhm.
just like doing whatever the hell how they felt like, and
Right.
definitely not playing optimally. So maybe it was just like, I don't know, like it's just a bunch of random like people doing random shit in Dynasty like 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
Just like a casual like home league that's like redraft.
Yeah, just like literally playing like a redraft, but like Dynasty. It's like
Yeah, but with
until
like your buddies and yeah, not
yeah,
not really having like a process or there weren't like resources. I'm sure like for many years about like dynasty strategy and everything. I mean, now it's
exactly.
become really popular and
Yeah,
it's so easy to access like all kinds of YouTube videos about like how to build a team and strategies and everything like that. But like, yeah, I'm sure that stuff didn't exist for quite a while.
yeah. And then again, like probably in the next last like I don't know what would you say like maybe like 3 years or so. It's like really
Yeah,
basically whatever. Like when did it even get on Sleeper? I don't even know. Like
like when did Sleeper start?
yeah, I don't know. Like Dynasty on Sleeper or
Uh,
if they had it instantly, I don't even know. Like
I mean, I only discovered Sleeper, once I started playing Dynasty. Like I never even heard of it prior to that. And I mean, I feel like the reason I even like started playing Dynasty, I don't know. I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened. I mean, obviously, like Nico invited me to like, join a Dynasty league. The 16 teamer that eventually folded, and then now it became NFL Madness. It like started over, but um, yeah, and I think at that time, like, I don't know if I started watching like YouTube videos on Dynasty like because I joined the league, or I kind of feel like I'd already like seen some because like I was just watching like fantasy videos in general on YouTube, and then I feel like inevitably like I heard some stuff about Dynasty and kind of thought, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting, and then gradually I just sort of like naturally without trying just sort of like consumed some Dynasty content, and then I think once I joined like my first league, then I became even more interested to like learn more about it and the strategy. But yeah, I definitely feel like it's become a lot more popular just like the last few years.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it just like seems to be catching on fire,
Yeah,
and like I just feel like it's just really rapidly growing.
yeah,
Which is a good thing, but I don't know. I guess like the new players should probably be pretty weary of like what leagues they're joining. And I mean, when I was trying to like join leagues at first, I mean, I didn't really know where to join. I didn't really know anyone in dynasty leagues.
yeah.
So like I had joined like just like a random free league, just like see what the hell is going on.
Right.
And it's just like the most typical thing. Like it's funny because like I mentioned like I play like I had played Madden like pretty competitively, and like basically the way I would make money is just like joining in these like random leagues, but like eventually they became way less random because like I would then eventually be like connected like everyone that
Yeah.
would be running these leagues, and so I didn't have to like it was just like really well run stuff, and I knew what I was getting
Yeah.
myself into. But at first it was like just like the craziest things happening. Like my first dynasty league, we're like in round 8, and then it just like got blown up. Like someone just like deleted it. This is like okay, so I'm not doing that again. I'm gonna like find like a real league.
Yeah.
And then funny enough, like Blood, Sweat, and Beers like was the first one I really joined,
Okay.
and then like yeah, and then I just took off from there. I think if you like join one fantasy league now, and you just like stay in one league, like you're a psychopath, and you
Yeah.
should probably like it's probably like a red flag as a human being. Like you gotta like if you join a league, like you're probably gonna be wanting to join like 5 more or something like.
Oh yeah, because it won't be long before like someone posts in the league chat like, oh, I need someone for this orphan, or oh,
Yeah,
anyone
yeah.
want to do this, like jumping on the startup, $50 buy-in. It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
that would be fun to do another one.
The
And then before
startups are
you know it,
too
you're like
fun.
in like 8, 12 leagues, like whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, the startup's like too fun, but like the best part about the startup for me is like that's like your chance to like really get an edge if you think
Yeah.
you have some kind of player take or something. Where again, it was like I was drafting Madison and Chandler in every draft, in a lot of Zamir White and stuff, and
Yeah.
that stuff panned out. I mean, for reference, I also traded literally every single Madison. Luckily enough, I can't believe I didn't keep one.
Yeah.
So that worked out. but I also hit some Traylon Burks and Jahan Dotsons. So, yeah, they almost ended
Hey,
up evening out.
we're still holding out some hope for Jahan Dotson. So let's not just lump him in with Traylon Burks. Like, come on, like, that's just disrespectful.
That's true. I gotta see if I still have him on a roster. Cause like this would be it if I had him. Oh my god. Let's see where I drafted.
Traylon Burks,
Okay.
oh god.
At least it was the 6th round, but I could like back it up because like at least instead of in the 6th round of drafting like Tony Pollard and Ramondre Stevenson and like guys that I knew that were gonna be dead, I at least shot for the.
Yeah.
I went out flying. Like.
I could see that. That makes sense.
I went out swinging here. We made the right choice of getting a second-year receiver. Just we picked one with asthma, and that's garbage apparently, and it's not even.
Look, the question is, why is he still on your roster? I mean, he's just like clogging up that spot. Like, what are you doing here?
I've just been waiting for someone to like. I've been throwing out some offers. Maybe tomorrow I'll just like try to get like 5 fab for him and just get him off my roster.
I mean, it would be better just like spam out offers like Traylon Burks for Bo Melton, Traylon Burks for Wan'Dale Robinson, Traylon Burks, Jacob Cowing, like just like any like cheap receiver that you like, just like spam out offers.
I mean, I might own Cowing in here. I own Cowing in here.
Okay, yeah, that's the problem there.
50% chance, but
yeah.
We'll name a receiver. Let's see if I can.
Here, I actually have like a list of like players that in Dynasty. Here, I'll pull this up. We'll find some good candidates here. All right, trade.
Dude, they're just like adding photos at like 2 a.m. because like
I noticed that. Yeah.
Earlier. Like they've been adding them all throughout the day, but yeah, just Ray Davis just didn't have one. Now he does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, could you get? I mean, I don't even know if you could like. Could you get like Malik Washington? Luke McCaffrey. How about that? I mean, I doubt you could even get that. I mean, a lot of these I bet you can't even get done because the rookie hasn't failed yet. So like people, always assume like the best. So it might be tough to do it for a rookie. You might be better. It might be actually easier doing it for like a 2nd or 3rd year receiver, like, Wan'Dale Robinson, or, I mean, you might even have to go like really dirt cheap, like, Xavier Gibson or like Calvin Austin, or, I mean, we haven't talked about Calvin Austin yet, so I don't know how you feel, but like, I'm suddenly kind of high on him. So maybe that's a conversation for another day, but.
Yeah, I kind of had him. I don't know what's like the quick pitch on him. I had some of him, but I don't have him anymore.
I mean, like, he's a guy like, I mean, so like when he was coming out, like, I'm trying to remember if I ever like pulled up his highlights or whatever. Like, I can't remember for sure. But he's a guy I just kind of like forgot about because like he was basically like injured all of his first year, and then last year he kind of started the season a little hot. Like he had like the one big game against the Raiders, and he was actually like producing like a little bit, like at least showing something. But then he just kind of like faded into oblivion. But I mean, what sucks is that he's like stuck on the Steelers. So like, and obviously he's still there. And then now you got Arthur Smith coming in. So like, it's not like the greatest situation in the world for like him to turn things around. But there has recently been some hype on him and some like good reports out of OTAs and everything like that, training camp. And he's been trending up on Sleeper recently. And so I decided to like go back and like pull up his like, college highlights like on YouTube. And like he really looks good out there. I mean, not only is he like a lightning bolt in terms of his speed, but he just looks very agile. And I really liked what I saw in terms of his route running. I mean, it just seems like the way he's able to like manipulate his body and like change direction. And I mean, he just really looks like a guy that can just like play the game. So like, I don't know why like he's done so little up to this point. And obviously like he's still stuck on the Steelers. So, I mean, I'm not trying to say like there's some great probability that he's going to like do anything this year, but he's just a guy that like if he's on the waiver wire or if you're trying to like trade off just a complete, zero roster clogger like Traylon Burks, like, yeah, can I get, Calvin Austin plus some fab plus a 4th, anything. I'd be willing to do that just to like get rid of like a Burks and actually get someone that I have some hope for. And I just really don't have much hope for Burks.
Yeah. I mean, Burks, like, obviously, I just need to get him off this roster.
Yeah.
I don't know, Calvin Austin, like, my issue is, like, especially if you're looking at highlights, like, they're going to look unreal, right? But, like, I don't really like to look
at... Let's go out there.
I don't really like to look, like, as much of the highlights. I like to, like, actually look at, like, a guy that is, like, I mean, knows more about like
Yeah,
players,
like
not
put like
receivers.
put, yeah, like pull like a YouTube video of like an actual scout or
Yeah,
so, like someone that actually
and
can
they're
like know
like,
how to like break down an NFL player and like go through like the
yeah,
nuances. Yeah, for
for
sure.
like Calvin or whatever, Calvin Austin, it's like it's the same thing for all those guys. Like, yeah, like he's electric with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
Like, if they can find himself in the right situation, whatever, and like really like here's his issues. You know, he can't make contested catches. He can't run a route and like all that stuff. So it's like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I actually liked him going into last year, and he seemed to have like a lot of hype. His like in preseason, he was kind of killing it and that whole
Right.
offense. But then he just like did nothing, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's I'm just kind of out at
Oh,
this
for
point.
sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the odds are, Kelvin Austin will never amount to anything, but he is an exciting player. I mean, yeah, he's just explosive as hell. I mean, I really liked what I saw, and I mean, I'm not just the kind of guy where it's just like, oh, and any receiver that's really fast like must be good or whatever. But like, he really looks like he can play the game. I mean, just watching him, I mean, I was definitely like reminded of guys like Jacob Cowing and like Tank Dell and like that kind of thing, just in terms of like their agility and everything. But I mean, the difference, well, I guess Cowing's fast too, but I mean, Calvin Austin, like, I mean, he can really fly. I mean, I'm trying to remember what his 40 time was, but I want to say it was like a 4.36 or something like that. I mean, he can really fly, but he also has the agility too, which I really like. And from what I saw, it looks like he can run a route. But again, like I'm not a scout, and I can't really justify completely why he's done like nothing up to this point. So yeah, I mean, odds are he'll never be anything, but he's just like a fun guy to like, take a flyer on. He's completely free. I mean, I wouldn't trade anything more than like a Treylon Burks type for him. You know what I mean? Like basically just someone I'm trying to get rid of that I'd cut anyways.
I basically just sent Traylon Brooks as a placeholder, but or Calvin Austin as like a decoy. But like I'm really
Yeah.
just trying to get 7 fab for Brooks.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
more important part.
Yeah.
Names like Bellinger, it's too late, which sucks because like I like Bellinger as got him in Dynasty in any league.
Oh yeah. Let me look at my list though.